Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hanson, joined by Joe Juba.
That's me.
We got Dan Tack wearing the dumbest suit I've ever seen in my life.
You can win this suit today if you send in a good email.
There we go, podcastgameinformer.com. And then we also have Elise Favis.
Hey, I'm finally here.
Welcome.
The last time we saw you, you were on a computer monitor.
I was.
Well, the E3 episode she made it on.
Oh, okay.
But that one barely counts. The audio is pretty bad in that hotel room. She's like the Reapers. It's like this legend. Like, oh, she's coming anytime now.
I really don't want to be compared to the Reapers.
But like a friendly Reaper, like the friendly robot Reaper at the end of Mass Effect 2.
All right.
But welcome aboard, Elise.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Your first day at Game Informer officially, or in the office at least.
It was on Friday.
Last Friday.
Yeah.
What is your biggest impression so far of the office?
The vault is huge. I mean, I've seen it before, but it's freaking gigantic. I don't know. I mean, I've already been here as an intern for 3 months, about a year ago. Loved it. Never thought I would be back here, but somehow I'm here. And I think that's really what's in the back of my mind the whole time is just like, I never thought I would be back here. And somehow I'm here. And that was very surreal.
And now
for the
we'll
first
never let
day.
you go.
Yeah, and don't worry. The novelty wears off, especially Ben Hanson's.
Oh, Lord, so quickly. But hey, we got a hell of a show that we're talking about here. We got Am Setsuna. Joe Juba has reviewed this JRPG. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Dan Tack, I want you to talk about Monster Hunter Generations, whether you want to or not.
Dan Tack always wants to talk about Monster Hunter.
And no one's there to listen. But now we have a podcast audience. They're stuck with it. Then we're going to talk, of course, about Pokemon Go. We can't get away from that monstrosity. A little bit about World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I hear there's something coming out for that.
There's something bubbling up. Some other odds and ends thrown in there. And then in the back half of the show, after emails, I sit down and speak with Ron Gilbert of Adventure Game fame.
Exciting.
Yeah, you're a big Ron Gilbert fan, right?
Oh, yes.
Now, I know you love, like, old LucasArts, but I don't know if you steer more towards the pure Schaefer stuff, or do you go back to the Maniac Mansion Ron Gilbert love?
Yeah, I love Maniac Mansion as well, but I definitely do go more towards LucasArts stuff.
You're more of a Schaefer guy.
Yeah.
It's like McCartney and Lennon. You really have to pick between
Can't help
them,
it. Full Throttle's amazing.
Well, and Elise's first review for us, I think, was Day of the Tentacle remastered, right?
Right.
Yeah,
With
that
Ron
was my
Gilbert.
that was really perfect up my alley. It's one of my favorite games of all time. So
That's great.
That was perfect.
And he vaguely set up the premise for that one. But with the interview, with coming up later, we talk a little bit about that guy really still wants to make Monkey Island 3. And it's not just like this passing, like, yeah, that'd be fun. Like, he has a real desire to make it. And so we talk a little about that, talk about the Uncharted 4 Easter egg, which I've always wanted to ask him about.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, like, kids' games, the modern state of, games for kids. And then, strangely enough, I talked to him a bit about Pokemon Go, because he's been tweeting a lot about it. So he has some thoughts on that phenomenon. So a fun chat with an old video game legend.
Excellent.
So stick around for that. But right out of the gate. Oh, you know what? More importantly, we talked about Thimbleweed Park, which is the new game that he's working on.
Oh.
Which is the throwback to kind of Maniac Mansion style adventure games, which you saw at E3, Elise.
Which I played for about half an hour or so.
Okay.
Yeah,
you want to set this thing up?
So Thimbleweed Park is this really weird place, kind of like Twin Peaks vibe to it, where you play as several different characters. The first are two FBI agents who kind of find a corpse under a bridge. And they go around talking to these really quirky characters. Like there's this guy dressed as a pizza. You go to a diner and you talk to people there. And through the conversations that you have with people, it makes these flashbacks happen. And then, so in one of the flashbacks I played, you play as this guy called Ransom the Clown.
Of course.
So it sounds like it brings a lot of levity to the whole finding a corpse under a bridge situation.
Yeah, it goes all over the place.
Okay, so in the flashback, sorry.
So basically, you're talking about Ransom the Clown because he's some weird guy who hangs out in like an abandoned circus, and the girl at the diner, she's just like, oh, maybe he's a suspect of the murder. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, you play as Ransom, and he's like obsessive about his appearance and super crude. And you get ready for him to go up on stage, and then when you're up there, you just kind of throw different terrible insults to people, but then he gets...
Okay.
Anyway, I don't want to spoil
little
too much,
insult
but
sword
like,
fighting type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question about like when you're playing an adventure game like that over a short period, because like
So tough.
it's I know it's tough to judge because those games really like the puzzles and the story unfold over a much longer time. But just from the limited slice you had with it, like Was it funny? Was it fun? Was it clever?
It's funny. I remember there was this one part where when you're transitioning over to the flashback, there's a blank screen and it says something like 5 hours of riveting gameplay later. Just kind of like poking fun at itself. The puzzles themselves were not terribly difficult, but keep in mind this is the first 20 minutes of the game or something.
And you are a super genius.
And I'm a super genius, so
that's why we hired you. Crazy. Yeah, we talked to Ron a lot about puzzle design and trying to make it approachable, but clearly this is designed for the old school fans. It looks like
you got the whole verb system down at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's for those fans of the old school stuff for sure. But puzzle design, I hope they're not going to be too obtuse.
I hope not.
But I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it's kind of like X-Files meets Twin Peaks combined with Maniac Mansion. Is that the gist of this game?
Yeah.
Okay. So keep that in mind when you're listening to the interview later on in this podcast. But as far as new stuff that's out right now that people can play, the biggest release this week, and it's weird to call this game big, Joe?
I Am Setsuna.
There we go.
It's a fairly small RPG in both in terms of scope, and I think even the team that made it was relatively small, especially compared to sort of large scale RPGs you see out there these days. But this week it's sort of one of the major releases. So
if you don't count Pokemon Go, people are all abuzz for I Am Setsuna. So this is from Tokyo RPG Factory,
right? And Tokyo RPG Factory is sort of a subset or like a small studio within Square-Enix, and I believe. If I'm remembering my anecdotes correctly, is that when they were hiring for this studio, they did not mention that it was a part of Square-Enix. They wanted to make sure that the people that they were bringing in were people who were sort of who were passionate about the project of making an RPG that harkens back to the old mid 90s or 90s era games like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they cited those games, they didn't specifically say this is a Square-Enix company.
Right.
Because I assume that there would be people who just sort of would want to get a foot in the door at Square-Enix otherwise. So.
Well, that's the bizarre part too, because I started this game last night and played maybe an hour and a half of it or so. And during the opening credits, which I want to talk to you about in a bit, it was man, who are these people? Are these old Square employees? Because there's such enthusiasm that we found when we visited for these old Super Nintendo RPGs.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody... There are no big names from that era that are working on this game. It's not hey, the director of Chrono Trigger came back and he's making a new one. It's just kind of the next generation of fans that happen to work within Square now are making that throwback.
Right, and I definitely don't want to... This is not to diminish the contributions of any of the people in those credits either, but I don't think that you will... Yeah, you won't see any of those big names that you would recognize from back in the day. I think the people making this game are the people who were playing Chrono Trigger in the 90s and enjoying it.
Yeah. And I read some interviews last night with the creators, and I guess it all started because the director was seeing a lot of games and people in the West kind of making these JRPG throwbacks. And he said that he saw Child of Light coming from Ubisoft.
Yeah.
He's he said, I don't know if a Western game developer can handle this genre. We should tackle it again. And it's awesome. It's the concept of Square going back and making a Chrono Trigger Super Nintendo RPG inspired downloadable game is really great.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, Joe, how does it fare?
Well, okay. I want to come back and talk about that after we're done. So remind me to talk about sort of Square's goal with resurrecting this style of game. But ultimately, this I Am Setsuna is very close. If you played Chrono Trigger, it is very close to that. In some ways, less so in others. But I guess the warning I have to give is for people like me, and I know people like Dan who were into those games in that era as they were coming out, was that you can kind of fall into a trap of being well, if it's more Chrono Trigger, I'm in. I don't care how close it is, I am right there. I'm in.
Totally.
And I would caution you with that because a lot of what makes you remember Chrono Trigger fondly is things that it did that were really novel at the time. And it turns out that a game that sort of tries to copy some of those ideas, even though they still are fun to play, it's still a fun game to play, it does not have the same charm in terms of giving you something unexpected, right? So
Yeah.
ultimately, and there are other things. The other things about it that make it not like Chrono Trigger also sort of bring it down. I hate to keep using the Chrono Trigger callback,
but it's the most applicable here.
It is very apt, and in leading up to this game's release is the one that like was sort of harped on the most. Like the Chrono Trigger was used to set people's expectations for this game. So I feel like in some ways talking about it in those terms is important. But
yeah, so you talk about like having novel experience with Chrono Trigger. Like I didn't play Chrono Trigger until maybe 5-6 years maybe after it came out. So it's not like it was that fresh and new, but I still think the power of those characters and that world pulled me into the point that I absolutely fell in love with it.
Right. And this for me in particular is where the problem comes in. Is that I think I Am Setsuna in some ways is a misunderstanding about what people liked about Chrono Trigger and maybe a constraint of budget of what they were actually able to produce.
Yeah.
So I Am Setsuna has, in a lot of ways, has things like the combat system. Is 3 party members, turn-based, like the old ATB system. You can team up with like 2 party members can join in for a joint attack. 3 party members later on join in for like a big attack.
It has a move called X Strike for level.
It has X Strike. It has Luminaire. It has. I'm not going to spoil all of them, but like a lot of callbacks in name. In fact, one of the characters whose name is Eterna, like you get her really early on, wears like a green hood with little like froggy eyes on top of it. Like this isn't a coincidence. She's clearly designed to, make you say that looks like a frog.
Yeah.
And those kind of nods are like fun for fans, but they also don't like recreate Chrono Trigger, right? They're just nods to it. And for me, what the problem becomes is when you stray out of the combat system, which is pretty much just straight up more Chrono Trigger. You are in a world that is very similar. Scratch that. Does not have a lot of variety to it.
It's all snow and trees.
It's snowed. Your dungeons are, you go from snowy cave to snowy mountain to snowy field to back to snowy cave. There are some ancient ruins in there a little bit.
Ooh.
But it's a lot of samey stuff in terms of the environments, the towns, the dungeons that you're going to, which is a problem when you compare, again, to Chrono Trigger, where it's like you're going to prehistoric jungles and you're going to futuristic wastelands and, like magical cities in the sky. And this doesn't have any of that sort of like, wow, I'm someplace new.
Why is that? Do you think it's just constraints on the art team's assets? Why is it all snow?
I think that was their central theme, actually. Like, I remember reading up a bit about it, and I played it at E3 for a little bit.
Okay.
And the snowy thing was supposed to be kind of like parallel to the whole theme of sadness. Like, they're supposed to be kind of intertwined in a way. Do I think it works? I'm not sure, because also what I was wondering when I was playing was, is this going to be like the setting, is it going to all look the same? Like, that's kind of what I felt when I was playing Steep, too, is just, like, snow everywhere. And, like, is it going to change?
When am I going to sticky on rocks?
Yeah.
Watch that
show. Snow looks bland, unless you do something, I don't know, something different with it, like caves and stuff.
And it's not a total, like, the thing that Elise brought up is important in that, like, there is a kind of thematic consistency that comes across that is interesting. I mean, when everything is snowy and buried in ice, it really, like, it does convey a sense of, like, desolation about the world. I really like the soundtrack, very, like, piano heavy soundtrack. Again, like, with the visuals, with the sort of story theme, is like really cements that idea of theirs in. The problem is, I don't know if like that intent and the effect of it, I don't know that it outweighs the general tedium of just like going to the same places all the time and not really getting that sense of like the situation being refreshed at all,
Yeah, for sure.
So there's that element of it also, and this is a totally subjective element of it, but like the story just didn't do it for me.
Even starting out in the very beginning, where it's like, all right, you need to go kill this little girl, and it almost has a little Ned Stark Game of Thronesy type thing where it's like, okay, all right, I understand that analogy. and then quickly it becomes, as far as I can tell, Final Fantasy X, where this woman has to sacrifice herself, and it's part of this age-old tradition. It just seems like very much greatest hits.
Yeah, and there's a sense of, and there are points in which the story diverges in sort of interesting, even though it's sort of minor ways. But yeah, generally the core premise of this game is like, there is a woman named Setsuna who needs to go sacrifice herself to buy the world like a respite from these monster attacks.
Because these monsters are getting worse and worse around this village, guys.
And the whole party that goes along are sort of, like bound by this kind of sacred oath to protect the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Which is Final Fantasy X's plot.
It's exactly that. And even the writing itself. Like, by the way, I enjoyed my time with this game. Like, I hope I stick with it, so I don't want to seem overly negative. But the writing was just, it felt a little bit bland out of the gate. Do the characters get some more depth? Is it clever at any point?
So I mean, there are parts in the story that are interesting, but overall, I think where the big problem for me is that like, I did not feel like the characters really got their interesting like spotlight moments.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, you get this one little guy in your party named Kerr. He's like a heavy magic user, and after the little sequence where you sort of like find out what's going on with him and his little like hometown, he follows you around for a little while. But so like some of that stuff is centered on who he is as a character. Then once he joins your party, there's like, he may as well just not be there. He chimes in dialogue sometimes, but like the story never veers back toward him in a way that like fleshes him out as a character. And I feel like it's like that for pretty much everyone, is they have their sort of big introductory moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't get that sort of recurring sense of them being a central, like a part of the world, or that their actions are important.
I feel like we had that complaint a little bit about Final Fantasy VII with our game club towards the back half of that, where it's like, I wish they kept these character stories going a little bit more.
Yeah. And so for me, that was part of the complaint. And also just the fact that like having played Final Fantasy X a couple times.
Yeah.
It's like you can pretty much see every bump in the road that's coming, with a few sort of like, what's this person's exact backstory or motivation,
Yeah.
If you've played Final Fantasy X and Chrono Trigger, you've really got a solid foundation of figuring out what's going on here.
But for a fun game to sit in the air conditioning in the summer and play, like, if you want to have that throwback experience, I think it's going to be satisfying for a lot of fans out there, don't you?
I think so. I mean, I think that's what they were trying in the first place, is to like replicate that era.
But
so
you can
badly,
do that,
but yeah, I don't know. I think people will like it though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed my time with it, but hearing that the characters don't get fleshed out that much and that kind of stays the same in terms of the setting and stuff is a little disappointing. But like, I know I'm still going to play it.
Yeah, it's so exciting for this team to get this shot and to have a decent budget. Like, the art isn't fantastic and it feels a little bit cheaper around the edges. It's made in Unity and whatnot. Not that that's a terrible engine, but I wish that they were just hell-bent on an original story and like some real heart to these characters.
Yeah. I do want to get around to that. But another thing, like, asking about like whether people will enjoy it.
Yeah.
As someone who comes from a background of like playing a lot of these kinds of games, I did have a good time with it. So it's like despite my complaints with it, there's something that is just fun about slipping into a very familiar sort of set of systems and story, and the fact that this is a genre. I mean, JRPGs in general are thinner. That field is thinner than it used to be. But to have one that so specifically is emulating an era that I love, even if it's familiar, it's still fun.
Yeah.
So if you fall into that camp, as long as you are aware of the sort of potential pitfalls along the way, I think you can really still have some fun with it.
And I'm trying to think, did you play any of the Bravely Default games?
I tried to.
Okay.
basically the whole element of repetition in those, like killed it for me.
I'm trying to wonder how much overlap there is, where it's like this seems maybe a little more satisfying narratively than the Bravely Default games.
Yeah.
Dan Tack, I'm leaning towards you because I know you played them.
I have. The narratives in those games are not compelling. However, I did find the systems compelling.
Okay.
So
basically the inverse of Setsuna then, is that what we're getting at?
I haven't played any Setsuna, and I'm not sure I'm going to after,
Really?
the rest. I don't want anything that could hurt my memories of Chrono Trigger and those other great
Well, look,
games.
it's not like the new
They're not gonna do
Ghostbusters.
that.
Yeah, it's not destroying your
Not the
child.
new
Right.
Go, but
It's just
Actually,
not doing anything novel.
frankly, I got
That's-
stuff to play. I don't want to waste my time with it,
But you love that era so much.
I do.
Wouldn't you
I
feel
do.
like you're sliding into a warm jacuzzi, as Joe eloquently put it?
I'll give
that's what I
give it
feel.
an hour, and I'll see how I feel.
Okay.
That's fair.
But one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and this is circling around to what I wanted to say at the beginning, was that like what has me nervous is that like this is a decent first attempt at sort of recapturing this era,
Mhm.
right? And there are some problems with it, like I said about the environmental design, the fact that so like all the dungeons are basically just like here's a little path and here's an area with enemies, and here's a little path and an area with enemies. You don't have the sort of like interesting cathedral that you're walking around in Chrono Trigger, or,
Okay.
so it's like very straightforward, kind of dull dungeon design too. But my worry is that Square-Enix is going to look at the sort of like middle of the road reception that this
Yeah.
game is getting and be like, well, people say they want it, but they don't, so we're not going to try anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I think that response being based on the sort of misconstrued idea that they are producing exactly what people want and people just aren't taking it, rather than it's like, no, I mean, what we want and what we liked in Chrono Trigger were like the characters, the story, the scenario, like it's this whole combination of things that we're sort of getting half of.
Right.
But what I'm worried about is that this is going to be seen as a failure and that they're not going to try anymore, when really just a little more time, more fleshing it out a little bit more, like bridging those gaps in the environment, in the story, in the characters, which I know is easier said than done. But I mean,
Yeah.
they are more than halfway to creating something that really can recapture that.
But not that this might be controversial, but not that everybody is the same at Square. But when was the last time you think a Square game, Japanese Square game, nailed characters and nailed story? I would argue that I have not seen it for a while, and I'm not saying they're incapable of pulling it off. But for me personally,
I
I
mean,
haven't
like a
felt that.
JRPG, one of their
Yeah,
JRPGs in particular.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's been a while, and so I just wonder how well it can hit it. Dan Tack, what are you doing?
I'm just wondering when that time is.
Sure,
Okay.
fine.
I think I have to go pretty far back.
See, it's tough. It's like, hey, studio, make charming characters. It's like they're cranking out so many games. And you mentioned this is a throwback, but you got to remember, I mean, there's like Final Fantasy Dimensions. Like they've been experimenting with these throwbacks for a while, so it's not like it's coming completely out of the blue.
Right.
The
But
keyword
yet-
there is experimenting. Like, come on, these
Yeah.
like dimensions and like the other things, like just making the games actually worse, like look worse while they port them over to other platforms.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, I don't. That's just saying, hey, there's a game everybody likes. Let's just throw it on this thing.
Yeah. Here's a thought experiment, Joe.
Okay.
If you played this game, forget review scores, forget all that stuff, right?
Okay.
You're just playing this game as a fan.
Mhm.
If I went up to you right when you hit the start button and I whispered in your ear, this was made by a Western developer, and then there's no other difference in the quality of the game, versus I said, this came from Square in Tokyo, does it add a certain panache? Is there a certain like enthusiasm knowing that it came from Japan? This is what I kept thinking about when I was playing last night. Even if the game is identical, is there something that's intrinsically cooler about it coming from Tokyo? Am I nuts?
Yes.
Yeah,
You don't feel that at all?
That I don't get that.
If I said
personally.
like, hey, these are 4 guys in Seattle that made this game, you would feel the exact same way about it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, just my thought experiment. Apparently it hit
I
a
mean,
dead end.
If nothing else, I might be a little more impressed if it were put together by like a like 1 or 2 person team.
Okay.
You know?
Sure. Stardew Valley style, I get it.
Okay, yeah.
But I appreciate you not giving a pass to pure nostalgia, Joe.
Well, thank you. I mean, but I wish that I wish it would have been more than that, you know?
What'd you end up giving this?
I gave it a 7.5.
What an accurate score for your critiques. What would you say like your big genres are, Elise?
I'm not like one of the huge JRPG people, but I like Final Fantasy VII, the six, and
the 6 we call it.
AKA best game ever.
But
don't at me, Dan Tack.
What I played of E3, even though there isn't a whole lot that's novel there, I loved Chrono Trigger as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like, I don't know, there's enough there for me that I know I'm gonna like it anyway. So I'm gonna give it another try.
Can you walk me through your emotional hurdle, Joe, when you saw the intro sequence for this game where it's literally a character marching through the snow as the credits are rolling? Does that make you happy as a fan of 6, or is it like, come on, you guys?
Nah, I don't know. I guess like I saw the parallel when I played it, but like there were I already knew that this game was one that was like doing some throwbacks to classic RPGs. So I don't know, like it made me smirk a little bit, but it didn't seem like so far. To me, the most egregious like copy paste job is the basic like premise of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
all right, well there it is. Am Setsuna. Go at it if you like it. I'm excited to play it. Really, I think it's a good one for the summer.
And the combat is really like genuinely like well done and fun. Some aspects of like the management get a little bit clunky when you're dealing.
Yeah,
with
I noticed that. Like you have to
menus
like equip actual skills and stuff.
Okay.
Which was
So
odd, but
yeah, there's a layer of management and maybe like some peripheral systems that are never fully fleshed out and stuff. But like the core of like going around and fighting things, the way they have that system set up is enjoyable.
Lovely. Dan Tack,
Yes, sir.
get up on that mic, sir.
I'm on it.
Let's talk about Monster Hunter Generations.
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
First of all, what's your hour count?
Completion of tier 6 quests was around 60 hours.
A lot of time. I don't think you've really talked about this game much around the office.
There's no one else interested. In the
I haven't got like a hate. Seriously though,
That's
you
what
should
you
really
wanna
check
do.
this out. I feel like every once in a while with the Monster Hunter people are like raving like, "Hey, this is a good entry point. Come towards this, everybody."
It is a good entry point, but at this point with my Monster Hunter thing, like I know people. This is like it's like trying to go around. It's not even as easy as trying to get someone into Dark Souls or anything. You have to be like, hey, do you want to learn like all these crazy systems? And the combat's really precise. If you mess it up, you're going to get eaten, and you're going to put it down and probably throw it. It's just like it can be very intimidating. Despite this, I think being the most accessible entry in the series to date.
So where does this stack up overall?
It's a very safe entry. It adds little, but but it's still really solid. It's got great gameplay. It does, it's not much, but the mechanics it does add let like a professional really show off his skills and let beginners ease themselves in.
And
before
you
they
are a
start to show about it.
professional Monster Hunter?
No, I wouldn't consider myself as one. No.
Okay. So I'm always confused about the Monster Hunter games because they release one and then it seems like it does the Street Fighter thing. Where it's like, hey, here's the Ultra Edition. Here's
Yes.
the remix version. This is like 4, but we're adding all these things. What is this one?
So this one doesn't have like the G rank missions that were in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate or anything.
Okay.
But instead, it's got deviant monsters, which are crazy different takes on monsters that you've already seen.
But hang on. But it is just like the shell of 4
No.
with a twist?
No. So this is like this is basically if I want to distill it in an understandable fashion.
Please. That's all we want from
It's
Monster Hunter fans.
It's Monster Hunter Generations, right? So this is basically Monster Hunter's greatest hits. It's got 4 of the villages from the series, tons of monsters from the series,
Okay.
all the weapons from the series, and then new ways to play with those weapons.
So it's short of Monster Hunter 5, but it's also not just like
It's almost
it's not a rehash of any particular prior
Correct.
game.
It's Monster Hunter Mega Mix.
it's just a giant compilation, yep, with all the weapons from the last. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can play as the kitty cat now. So
Couldn't you do that before?
now you'd always have them as companions, but now you can actually play as one.
I think there's a spin-off game where you get to play as the little cats. What are they called?
There may be palicos.
There we go. Cute little pelicans.
Yeah,
So yeah, did you
they're
do
the
any of
most
that?
annoying things in human history.
I always just see these little breakout articles where it's like, hey, you can play as Mario, you can play as Sonic, you can play as Toon Link. Is any of that
No.
stuff fun or cool in the game?
I did not particularly care for the palico gameplay, but
Okay, the Palico.
just the palico gameplay. The rest of the gameplay is fantastic, as
Uh-huh.
is the rest of the series. Like it's very, very deliberate combat that requires you to learn it, or you get rolled over. So like, and every weapon plays completely differently, almost like different games. Like comparing a heavy bowgun to a longsword, it's not just as simple as saying, "Oh, this thing shoots and this thing strikes." No, they all have their own movesets. They all have their own special like. There's a lot of item micromanagement planning that go into playing Monster Hunter. Like you've got to be like, all right, I'm going to go out in the field. I need pickaxes to mine. I need rations so I don't run out of stam. I need potions. I need antidotes. I need traps. I need you need to look through like this giant list of like, okay, I got everything. Tick all the boxes. I'm ready to go hunt.
It's also worth noting this is a 3DS game
This is.
that. So like I tried playing the last one,
That's right.
but didn't have the second
Circle Pad Pro?
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
I also played this without a Circle Pad Pro, and I will say I recommend the Circle Pad Pro, and as I did for the last game, it will do a number on your claws.
But like, what about the new 3DS with the little
Yeah,
number? That totally works.
Yeah, the new definitely as your best option. Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Who is the audience for this game, Dan, that isn't already into it,
Right.
and how do they get into
And
it?
that is a great question, and
Uh-huh.
out of that I don't know the answer honestly. Like
But it seems like a Dark Souls type vibe. Like, is there
I would say it's not they're not completely 1-to-1, but yeah, they're
Hang on, do you want to have this argument and break it out into a separate YouTube video about how these games are the same?
They're certainly nothing alike,
Uh-huh.
except in the fact that yes, both have challenging to get into, but not impossible to learn combat. And especially this one, like if you don't know what you're doing, just grab the hammer, or grab the hammer, okay, or like
Okay.
the heavy bow gun, and just either shoot things while you're stationary or hit things really hard in the head until they're stunned.
Literally, if somebody who has been playing games their entire life, Joe, you might be able to answer this too, like went out, bought this game, brought it home, would they just be completely effed? Like, is it one of those things where
They've been
if
playing games their whole no, not at all. They'll be fine.
Okay. Joe says no.
So I tried picking up the last Monster Hunter
Uh-huh.
for Ultimate, and like I've been playing games for a long time, and it's not that I felt like screwed over necessarily, but like it feels like they are not making these like, for as much as you want to say like this is the most accessible Monster
I
Hunter,
still think it. I mean,
they are
to that
like,
point.
even the most accessible like wall to jump over, if that's still 14 feet high,
Uh-huh.
you're not going to have a good time jumping over it,
Right. I'm not giving the game any points for accessibility.
So
Yeah.
what? Just YouTube
So,
videos?
It's just
how do
more
you do
accessible. Yeah, but YouTube videos are actually great.
Or talk to people like Dan Tack or Lele up in production. Like
So you
for-
recommend
for
that to
me-
listeners?
For me, the key was when I was playing 4 to be able to talk to people like Dan Lele and Tim, who was here at the time, who were playing it, because like as a newcomer, they have systems and expectations thrown at you that are just not clearly explained, and even when you do get them, I had a sense of like, oh, so that's all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get better gear so I can get better fight better monsters. That's the loop, and I get that loop is attractive to some people, but when it's sort of laid bare like that it's like it felt just like a hamster wheel to me. It did not feel like I was like getting more, because it's not like you learn a bunch of better moves or things like that.
You do now.
Well, when I like my impression of it was that like it's very much that level of like, oh, you have armor, so you're a little bit stronger, but then the monsters that you're fighting are also a little bit stronger, so you're just constantly feeling equivalence the whole way up.
He's not wrong about that, but you can also like set yourself down. You can be like, wow, I really see the difference now that I'm smashing these smaller monsters with my awesome new gear.
All right.
So like those quests are not completely useless after you've gone up. You still need lots and tons of materials. Like all about gathering materials and just being obsessed with your material collection, crafting, upgrades, getting new recipes for the snack stand or whatever you want to
So
call
if you
it.
break through all of this,
Sure.
you will have fun. You had fun with this?
It's one of those. I would classify, to go back to Souls, even though they're not the same. I think there's a like sort of a breaking point where you're like, wow, okay, I get this. This is pretty cool. I like comboed into that monster. I did a diving jump off of a mountain, hit him in the head. He got stunned, and then I comboed into a super attack and crushed him. And it was amazing. That was really cool, and it was a lot better than my first attempt at killing a monster 10 hours ago, which was me like wandering in a direction and flailing with the hammer and just watching it like completely miss as I get eaten by little dinosaurs.
That has a certain charm too.
There's a jumping off point, and then you're like, okay, I get this. It's cool. I'm gonna get there's a loop. Kill monsters, get better stuff. Kill monsters, get better stuff. No different than like Diablo or any other game where it's like that. But this more of a crafting element, specificity and customization.
Sure.
Like if I want to get this particular set that gives me more HP when I eat herbs or stuff like that, then I can go farm that set and it'll look really cool. And I'll go into multiplayer games. Multiplayer is the best part of the game for sure. As with previous
Get a group.
entries. Yeah.
Blast through it.
Even if you don't know any, you can just get on random online games based on your specs.
Oh, cool. So coming from a pro, you gave it an 8.75.
Again, I am not a pro.
The
I wanna make
pros
that
of the
very clear.
pros.
Yeah, I think it's a great game. It does not, I don't think it carts the series forward in a really meaningful way. It offers
Okay.
neat treats for people who already like the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like if you like Monster Hunter, yep, you're gonna love this game because it's a Monster Hunter game through and through.
Well, hey, if you like hamster wheels,
I
might
mean,
also-
hey, you boil it down, any game's a hamster wheel. Even Thimbleweed Park, you got to get the right item. Whatever, they're all
Wow.
hamster wheels.
yeah, hamster in the microwave.
If you want to turn them all down into this, like, if graphing paper or Excel spreadsheets,
I don't wanna
any
do
game
that.
can be done to that.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
But let's get to the hamster wheel that the entire world is consuming at this
Isn't
point.
that right?
Okay.
Pokemon Go. Joe, I listened to last week's episode again to hear what you said when I asked you if you would ever play this game, and your answer was probably not. And now, weeks later,
I believe I also added that I would play it when the servers were better.
correct. And
Which-
how did that
so
go?
we still not play it.
Which
Never really happened.
I also lied about that. So I lied on 2 counts.
We touched on it briefly last week, but we need to fully address this insane phenomenon. Have you guys, what is the most comparable phenomenon to the Pokemon Go sensation that you've ever seen in the game industry? Is there anything that's bordering on it?
I have never seen anything like it because normally in the game industry, sure, you find like pockets of crazy stuff going on, but they're all like, these are gamers, right? These are people who are already invested in games. With Pokemon Go, everyone, whether they like games or don't like games, they're on their phone playing.
Yeah, it's not confined to that one community anymore. It's everybody.
Yeah, I've seen dogs and plants playing this game.
I feel like, I mean, not to diminish what like Pokemon Go is doing, because it's definitely on a phenomenon level that I don't think has been seen. But like, remember when the Wii first came out and like everyone was clamoring for that? There was the same degree, like a similar degree anyway, of like mainstream news coverage on how desirable these consoles were, all of the health benefits of it, and things like that. So I mean,
That's
like,
true.
Like I feel, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but I think that there's a similar vibe to the sort of phenomenon level.
That's
I
a
think-
good point, yeah.
I do think it's a good point. I also think there's a major difference in that, as crazy as the Wii thing was, you're always playing that, inside someplace with other people.
Oh yeah.
So you couldn't really see on how it was affecting on the global scale. Whereas this,
Yeah.
I can't walk down the street without seeing 5 people playing at most times of the day. It's absurd.
Or at least trying to play.
Well, we're
Trying to log in.
They're obviously attempting to log in.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like I've been obsessed with this game. I'm level 20. Dan, where you at?
I'm 21 right now.
Okay, Joe, where you at?
10.
Elise, are you playing this?
I am, but I just started a few days. I think I'm level 6 or something.
What
so,
team are you on?
I haven't been to a gym yet, so
Oh Lord.
I'm still early on because it hadn't officially launched in Canada. And so I just got here last week. But there are ways to get around that in Canada. Like there,
Okay.
There sure
everyone
is.
with an Android, especially, it is super easy for them. I have an iPhone, and I was too busy with moving to really like sit down and figure it out.
Don't worry about it.
We obviously do
But,
not endorse doing that. 'cause
I was totally. I am not. I could tell. Like just walking downtown, it was insane. Like everyone I'd pass by had it on their phone, or there'd be swarms of people around like Pokestops and stuff. And like I'd go with my best friend, and she was playing all the time, and like lures and like tons of like lures everywhere, and like
So much fun.
just
It's
crazy,
so
like
much
seeing all
fun.
these people swarming everywhere and like
Yeah.
sitting on curbs and just like and she'd be like talking to random people. It's just like, hey, like there's a Snorlax over here or whatever, like it brings people together.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
I've been talking to a lot of people because there's this gym right behind my house. It's a brewery in Northeast Minneapolis. And there are always people sitting on the curb out there. And so I've made a real point to go out there and talk to almost every one of them consistently. Because like every night it's like, well, I'll just keep battling this gym forever. This is going to be the rest of my life now. But to your point, Joe, it's so funny because like I'll be talking to a couple Pokemaniacs there. And just mid-conversation, we'll all be checking our phones. And you can see them reflexively just, oh yeah, I've got to close out of the app. It froze up here. Like it has become such an unconscious movement because of how broken this game is, and the servers are such trash. But it is almost widely accepted at this point. It's just part of the game. Of course it's going to do, 4 out of the 10 things you want it to, but yeah, it's great. What are you going to do?
And I highly recommend, by the way, Jeff Cork wrote a piece for us that's on our website right now that was like, something to the effect of like Pokemon Go is a phenomenon and a janky mess.
Right.
Which like he sort of goes into detail on some of these things there too. But like to me, I am like you say, Hanson, I am just baffled at the level of acceptance that people have for just the like. Okay, so here's the example that comes to mind. It's like I remember just the outcry when Skyrim released and had some bugs that like these bugs did not prevent you from playing the game.
They were funny bugs.
Yeah, that
too.
dragon was flying backwards.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, like there are some weird things that happen, and okay, granted, there are some quests that you can't complete, and
The PS3 version was
and that's
barely playable.
and that's it. Let's just look at the 360 one for the moment. Because like, I guess what I'm saying is that like, even though that game was still, you could still play and enjoy, 95% of the content that Skyrim had to offer. It was just sort of like held up as this like example of how not to release games. This is just buggy garbage, and if you can suffer through it, it's pretty great. But it was just deemed unacceptable. And now Pokemon Go comes out, and like we're not talking about glitches that make it so like, oh, there's this little thing I can't do. You just cannot play the game.
Right.
Well,
go ahead.
No, but what's most frustrating is when you catch something you really wanted to catch, and then like it's just the Pokeball, and it's just there, and it doesn't move, and I'm just like, are you kidding? That happens to me so much.
Yeah, it interferes with the core thing. Like the whole thing the game wants you to do is catch them, and it lets you do that about 30% of the time. Well, okay, no, that's an exaggeration.
It really depends on the day.
Bring numbers into
it depends, but. All I'm saying is that, like, if you have a bug that makes it so that people cannot catch things when that is the core thing that you want them to do, and it gives them the disappointment of like, oh, that's a thing I don't have. Oh, I don't get it now.
But is the game just that addicting? Like, is it holding the game back at all? Do you think anybody has stopped playing because it barely works?
Absolutely.
People have?
Certainly people have.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
So, I mean, it's crazy to say that we'd see an impact and it would be more of a phenomenon if it worked great.
I feel like people are playing anyway, regardless.
Right, and they keep releasing in new countries, so like, that's the thing.
And that's the thing about it that's so cynical, because like that they are already making millions of dollars off of this game,
Very
right?
much so.
So of course, if you can make millions of dollars, and then you can make more millions of dollars by releasing it to more countries. That's do
a pretty
that.
solid plan.
But to me, but I mean, like that's such a cynical, short-term way of looking at it. When you have this game that is just daily, they open it up to new countries, and then everything just takes a crap, and you can't play it for hours, and it's just like
I have no idea though. I'm not technical enough to understand like if the new countries thing is specifically hurting it. Like I understand it runs like complete crap. But that could be completely independent of them releasing in other countries. Like, I don't know if those server farms are based in Abu Dhabi or what. Like,
if nothing else, you'd think that it would be a show of good faith to the players to be like, look, we're going to focus our team not on bringing this out across the world right now, but on stabilizing the experience. So when we do release it, everyone enjoys it.
Or at the very least, say something, Niantic. And Dan's a defender over here, just to throw you under the bus, being like, they don't have a community guide.
They don't. I would say nothing. What are they going to say?
What are they doing? Say, hey, we
What are they
understand you're
gonna tell
experiencing
you?
a lot of problems. We're working on it.
Yeah, they've just written that on Twitter like 5 times.
Yeah, they've just.
Well, they say like we're expanding to more countries, but be like, hey, this 3-step glitch that's also terrible. We're
That's
also
terrible.
working on it. Just send out one tweet a week. That's all I ask. Saying something.
Why send out a meaningless tweet?
It's not meaningless.
all
Everyone's like, what the
they've
hell's
said
going on?
again and again is that we're working on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Get specific.
Speaking of
Please.
tweets,
There's the thing you can't plan like again. They didn't plan on this, right? So like what they plan for like concurrency on their servers is obviously way lower than what they can handle, and adding more people doesn't help. And what do they do? We'll find out.
I mean, on some level, all of that stuff boils down to not my problem. As an end user, I want a game that works.
I agree. With
I want to be able to do the things like, I'm
not a bold stance. Totally.
I don't think that's asking too much. And I don't think, I'm glad I'm not reviewing this game, because this game would get a super low score for just being a barely functional piece of software.
But you seem to like it a lot when it is functioning.
And I do. And that's the problem.
Great.
Yeah,
That's so sweet.
I do. Yeah, so I do enjoy it when it's like, so our office is sort of situated between 2 Pokestops, so that's kind of nice. You can just sort of sit at your desk and like every few minutes, gets it. I mean, like,
and having a little bit of that hive mind where it's like, hey, everybody, there's a Golbat here, or something just slightly.
Nobody
above
has ever
common.
said that,
yeah.
and no one ever
Well,
will.
no,
Well, Golbat,
but it is
something.
And I think it's also helpful. I guess I don't know how it is in normal offices if you work in an accounting firm, if you have a bunch of people who are into Pokemon, but I mean, like, at a gaming magazine, lots of people are playing this game
Yeah.
and enjoying it.
It's not that this is like an office, but my friend works at Edible Arrangements, and apparently, like, all of them there.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
They're all playing.
I think it's everybody in the world, like to the point where like,
And the manager too, like everybody is just.
I never would have started if I like.
But
I never would have started
it's
playing
fun
this.
when you've got that like group of people to
Exactly.
like
Mhm.
compare with and stuff.
yeah, and that's about all you can do right now, which is a real bummer. But trading is going to be fantastic. Like that'll add a whole new social dynamic to be like, okay, what candies are you going for? I can get you these. I can get you these. I want to ask, what about community engagement protocol? Like for me, I've been taking a lot of walks playing this game, racking up those sweet egg kilometers. And like I'll be listening to podcasts, of course, but every time I see somebody on the sidewalk, I make it a point to take out my earbuds like a weirdo and give them like a, "Hey, Pokemon, catch anything good lately?" Is that weird to address every single person?
Yeah, I want nothing to do with anyone else playing Pokemon.
What? That's the whole point. You're talking about what a great phenomenon it is.
Don't talk to me.
I've seen it both ways. There are people who don't want to talk to him, just play their game. That's cool. And then I've seen people who are like, dude, let's go catch this Vulpix over here, man. And then like it's just an actual like group forms and starts walking. Like I spent downtown Minneapolis, just a group kept getting bigger over the course of the day as we kept adding new people at lured stops.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, let's come along. Cool. What's your name? I'm cool. Yeah.
At least try and break that ice is my point. Like I was at a park, which is just really popular here in Minneapolis, Victory Memorial Drive, for catching Pokemon. And everyone was just sitting around. There was maybe like 40 people or so sitting around on a Saturday. And no one was really talking to each other. They were talking in smaller groups, not like a bigger unit, And at a certain point, like the servers just weren't working for like our small group. And it's one of those things where I had to stand and be like, is no one playing right now? Are the servers down for everybody? And they're like, yeah, actually, no, the servers are completely down for everybody. So like, there's some benefit to that group dynamic beyond just saying, hey, there's a Vulpix over here. Run this way.
No, absolutely. I do think it's a social game. I think you can't ignore that. But people can play it in a variety of ways, and they're all right. Okay, like if you want to be the one being like, hey, what do you got? What are you doing? What are you doing out here?
Shoving my head in their
that's
car
fine.
window.
Just and then there are other people who are just they don't want to interact or talk at all. They just want to take the gym and walk away. If that's what they want to do, that's fine
These
too.
bastards are out there so late at night taking that gym. I'll see it turn. And it's like they were right there at like 12:30.
They were there. They're always there.
Oh, hiding in the bushes at times.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you, Dan, because you're a big systems guy. And weeks into this game, I want to get a sense of Pokemon Go's meta, how you're feeling like the systems are holding up, how well designed this game is overall.
Not good. I mean, I think it's a fantastic game, and more so a fantastic experience, and a fantastic social MMORPG played in the real world. I think that's great, but there are lots of stuff that's wrong.
But servers aside.
Server issues. Servers aside, yeah, man, it's just
what kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, there is no end game, and that's fine. For if you just want to keep leveling up and taking gyms, that's cool. That's fine. The stuff that's might be in the future, like raiding and stuff like that. But isn't there that will help a lot?
You talk about raiding, I mean like everybody trying to catch a Mewtwo, like is in that trailer.
Right.
But isn't there something kind of fun about that mystery element? About like there are legendaries that no one knows how to get yet, or even Ditto, who's not a legendary that no one's caught in the world. I bet there's a crazy trick to get them.
The theory, current acting theory is that those are raid Pokemon since they are legendary. But we'll find
Ditto's
out.
Ditto's not legendary though.
Not Ditto. Ditto'll be weird. It'll be like some event.
I bet you can get Ditto right now, just no one's figured out. I bet it's some weird trick like the evolution.
There are really cool secrets in the game, so I admit that could be one of those things. Yeah.
Okay, but outside of endgame stuff, you're still not satisfied?
Some of the systems just are really... It becomes harder to catch Pokemon as you level up. It seems like it should be easier. Just even the garbage Pokemon. I'm not a huge fan of the catch 1,000 Pidgeys. The best way to do things is to catch 1 billion Pidgeys and then hit your lucky egg and just sit there and evolve for a straight 30 minutes.
You say you're not a big fan, but you've been doing it a lot.
Of course, I will always take the most efficient system and do it.
Yeah. Also, who do these Pidgeys think they are? It's like, I throw a ball at him to try and get him, and then they try and break out. Like, no, I'm too good for it. It's like, you're a Pidgey, man.
Know your role.
Yeah,
get in the ball.
I got 20 of your brothers and sisters back here. Just get in the ball.
We're going to turn you into candy real good.
Yeah, you're not too good for me.
I don't particularly care for that, but I don't know how they could have done it better. I'm just saying, like, as a game design thing, they're always like, how can we make people do this, do the fun thing instead of the most efficient thing? And the only real way to solve that is to make the fun thing the most efficient thing as well.
I wonder if they would ever patch it out to make it like so the lucky egg doesn't affect evolution XP.
That would be even worse.
What's a lucky egg?
The Lucky Egg doubles your experience while you have it active. It lasts for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So the best way to level is to just gather, a whole like McDonald's farm of chicken nugget Pidgeys and just evolve them all during a half an hour period
Okay.
to get the most experience.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
And
Well, I've been collecting crap like that. We got so many drowsies around this office.
Well, the drowsy seed.
Ridiculous.
The difference why
tricky.
Pidgeys and Weedles and stuff like that are the best
Yeah.
is because they cost 12 to evolve. The useless drowsies cost 50, so you're not really.
Oh, please tell
Weaving
me.
them in.
Please tell me Rattatas are good because I gotta.
They're middle of the road,
What,
so they all cost
25?
25. Yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
so you can use them in this strategy.
They're doing okay. I've heard there's a lot of debate about whether or not the candy system works out well. A lot of people are like, why can't I just get experience like in the Pokemon games and level up that way?
Well,
It's like, without battling though, you can't do it. Like
It's a sim system. I'm okay with it. You're gonna run into Stardust problems for sure
yeah.
as you want to make your bigger Pokemon. But again, this is a game clearly not designed to be played and quote unquote beaten in 2 weeks, a month, or 3 months, or even 6 months. All right, they're definitely going for like, all right, you want to get to the cap, whatever that is, it'll take you years. Fine, that's cool.
To me, though, it seems like a huge oversight that at launch there is not a way to be like, Hanson, you have a Pidgey, I have a Pikachu, let's fight them.
Yeah, for sure.
Like-
and I mean, they're
like-
gonna patch it in.
Ostensibly, that
yeah.
is going in.
I know it's going in, but I mean, like, if you were to distill the world of Pokemon down into like one thing, it's like you catch Pokemon so you can fight with them.
I don't know. Transferring candies is pretty.
The combat is just not really that compelling. The whole gym, you can argue that the gym mechanics are because there's a social component to it. Like if Hanson, is an 11 o'clock p.m. creeper, he just drives by the gym and takes it over. That's an interesting. You get a rivalry going. You start to learn the names of the people who are coming by. You start to see them coming by, and then you even may start to interact with them. That's up to you.
Yeah,
But
no.
And a combat system is just you're just tapping the button. That's not interesting for anyone.
I know, but I mean, like at the beginning of the game, it's like, oh, all right, I get to choose like my starter Pokemon. Charmander's cool. I always go with Charmander, and now I've got just this garbage Charmander that's sitting at the bottom of my Pokedex because, like, what am I going to do with him?
Well, to be fair, like I understand people complain about that. Like you get really excited about catching a rare one, then if it's a low CP, it's like, well, I'll never catch another one, so I can never level it up. But as far as the end result, I kind of like having this variety. I feel like there's enough variety of who's actually capturing the gyms, and I'm excited that it's not just like the games where it's like everybody has Venusaur, everybody has Blastoise, everybody has Charizard.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a fun amount of variety, and I feel like it's enough, and it's a well-balanced amount of variety
Is
out
it?
there.
Because, like, I don't. Maybe it's just the Twin Cities, but like every gym I see has like a Snorlax sitting in it, and like some Eevee evolution.
Snorlax evolution
and,
is
like-
like they roll very high on the CP scale when you evolve them, so that's why they're current.
But I mean,
current winners.
Hanson's talking about the variety, and I'm saying like there's not.
I still feel like every once in a while it's like, oh my god, there's a Dragonite at this gym, or oh my god, there's I saw like a Poliwrath take this other gym. Like it's not a landslide in one direction.
I don't
guess
know if
that's
variety is going to be
exciting.
an issue because it's quite clear they're going to put in the next generation of Pokemon at a regular interval, right? Like
Right.
It's got to happen based on the awards that are already in the game. Like you
Maybe
got the Johto
once a
award.
year. What do you
Who
think?
knows?
Dan?
Twice a year.
You think? Well, I don't think they're.
I don't think they're
going
going
to
to do. Hang on. I think first year we'll see another complete generation, and then they'll divide it into halves for the next year.
You want to make a bet on that?
No, because that's a pretty specific thing to say.
Yeah.
I'd have to get pretty crazy odds.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later. One of the things that I find like just crazy distressed about that was just terrible design that should have been in before the game launched is like, sure, if we're going to transfer our crappy Pokemon into Kanzi, but let us do that on a global scale.
Oh
Let
yeah.
me select 50 Pokemon. Like if I'm after out on a walk, I look at my thing. I'm still like, oh, I got 100 garbage Pokemon to chop up, and I have to do them each one at a time.
Oh, it doesn't let you do.
No, you can't bulk transfer.
I haven't done that yet.
It is a nightmare.
Oh,
You're-
God.
But it takes a while. It'll take a lot of that 30 minutes from the lucky egg, but it's very satisfying when you eventually close out of that and look at how far your experience has gone up. It's really
Yes,
good.
the methodology is fine, but like again, taking the time to go through your Pokebox and trash literally 100 plus garbage Pokemon for candy, it's awful and should not be that time consuming.
Well, then again, the
Group
game
selection
isn't
is
designed to min-max like that. You
yeah,
know
it
what I mean?
absolutely is. You don't think that? Come on. There are people out there catching.
In an ideal world, it's not
Are
like
you-
this.
are you
This is
saying-
the most fun you can have with this
Are
game.
you saying that their average end user just plays for 3 minutes a day, catches one Pidgey, calls it good? And
I'm
that's
saying
it?
min-maxing a lot of games, it's going to be a dumb, boring grind at a certain point, right? If
What
that's
is-
your
wait,
only
what
goal.
is the major complication with putting a system in that lets me transfer more than one Pokemon?
I'm not saying that wouldn't be great. I'm not saying that wouldn't be great. I'm just saying it's not exactly the ideal experience of
Okay.
playing Pokemon Go that I'm sure they had in mind.
What experience was that?
It's shoving your head through car windows and screaming at somebody on Team Red.
But we're already doing that. We're doing that. It's part of the game.
So we got a lot of emails about Pokemon Go that I just want to jump the gun a little bit and get to. Just Billy from New Jersey.
Are we into email segment?
No, not yet.
We might
There are
just
so
time
many
segments.
that
Switch
were.
segments.
No. This is still within the
All right.
Pokemon Go
okay.
segment.
Okay,
It's out of form, I know. But Billy from New Jersey is in love with the game. He's going on a bunch of Pokewalks, meeting a bunch of people. He just wants to know if you guys think it's going to be a passing fad. How long is this thing here to stay? How long will we see people in the streets playing this game?
One of the things I love about this game is that during the first few days, people wouldn't shut up about how this was the next Miitomo, and I was just like,
Yep.
"Do you guys know what a game is? This is a lot different, right?" Like, no, honestly, I
Totally.
really thought to myself, like, "There's no concept here. Like, the Miitomo is just like you put on outfits.
Yeah.
This
And
is
answer questions.
an actual interactive experience in the real world. It's crazy. No,
Yeah.
It won't be a fad. I think it'll definitely die down a little bit from the insanity that it is now. But Ingress lasted for many years, and that's a very niche game. This is,
I think this is here to last for quite some time. Like,
So you think seeing people on the street is not going to be uncommon 2 years from now?
maybe not to the extent that we're seeing right now,
Well, sure.
but yeah, like every once in a while, you're gonna still see people like pulling out their phones.
I want to throw a caveat in here.
Uh-huh.
And this is all up to Niantic, honestly.
That's what I was
because
gonna
if this game gets the support,
Yeah.
then sure. If it's just like
if Niantic
we released
keeps,
it everywhere
you
later.
know, pushing
Yeah.
out new content and adding new, systems and stuff, then
But they have such an easy roadmap for new content. Like, it's the most
It's not-
obvious crap.
It's not just the roadmap for new content, though. It's also just like making
Fixing what they've got.
making it work. Like
Mhm.
if this is what
Uh-huh.
I know, I'm sorry to keep harping on the fact that I want a game that doesn't crash 70% of
I
the
would
time.
be surprised though if they didn't. I think maybe I don't know how long from now, but we'll see things smooth out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Here's hoping. We're going to run out of
I'm sure
countries
we
to expand to
It
at
sure
some
seems
point.
like
Otherwise,
are
people are
eating it
just
up
going
when
to
it's
keep
garbage.
getting more pissed off.
Yeah. People eat garbage all the time. Ethan from Indiana writes in, he says, Pokemon Go is huge right now, but what happens, I didn't even consider this, what happens when kids get off summer break? Will we hear about fights over Pokemon Go that happen in the classroom, or will schools have to ban Pokemon Go?
I'm absolutely sure you will. Okay, this is the thing about it being a game in the real world. There are real world hazards and real world challenges that go along with that.
Uh-huh.
You can't you're not playing a game in your living room with the air conditioning on. There is substantial. Some of these Pokestops are in places you probably shouldn't go.
I don't think, as far as the school element goes, though, I don't think that this game presents any new. It's not like teachers now are letting students just like, hey, yeah, go ahead and play video games all the time in class. I mean, like most schools have rules about like cell phone usage
Yeah,
and things like that already. So it's not like this opens up a whole new can of worms in terms of
Right.
kids wanting to use their phone in
Are
class.
there going to be fights on recess, though, about different teams?
Oh, I bet.
What are they-
Well, I mean,
what are they
people will
gonna
fight
fight
anything
about?
to fight about. You know,
Oh, what if the school itself is a gym? I bet a lot of them are.
that sounds
crazy.
great. That sounds like a great activity.
What a fun activity for the children.
I agree. I'm serious.
Let's see. So Aubrey writes in and says, considering how much of a cultural phenomenon Pokemon Go appears to have become, I'm curious what the GI crew thinks the amount of cultural impact it will have. Things like South Park episodes, stand-up comedians, mentions or appearances in television shows and whatnot. How do you see it all shake out? How long until it appears
All
everywhere?
the above. All
Yeah.
the above. There's no way it doesn't. It's this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Do you want to gamble on South Park making a Pokemon Go
Sure.
episode?
Absolutely will happen.
I also think that'll happen. All right, there's no problem here. I was just talking with Andy McNamara about there's going to be a popular hip hop song within 4 months that makes some passing reference to Pokemon Go. It's going to work itself into the culture in such a
100%.
sick way. Let's see. Last question from Eric Peterson here from St. Augustine, Florida. He says, and this is crucial apparently, if Dan Tack was a Pokemon, which Pokemon would he be?
He
And
actually
then
said that in.
he also mentions gotta attack them all. So which
It's funny because
Pokemon?
that one was actually asked on Twitter. I remember when I
Mm.
told you told him to go send it in.
That's right.
Wow.
Judging from your demeanor during that Setsuna conversation, I'm gonna go with the drowsy.
Hey, wow, that's all right. That's your pick. All right, I'm not gonna pick for myself because that would be cheating.
Let's see,
so.
Muck. What are the most offensive Pokemon we could list here? I love you, Dan Tack.
That's good. I'm glad you did.
With this shirt, you're more like a Mr. Mime, looking all fancy.
What about
Mr. Mime,
Oh, we got it, Mr. Mime.
Mr. Mime sounds right.
one of the stupidest
Pretty much.
Pokemon ever.
Dang,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Mime Tack.
he's selling us on it. All right.
Yeah.
Sold.
I got.
Man, it's a weird experience to be to hear everybody raving about AR and oh my god, it's the future, Pokemon Go, and then I also spend a lot of time with VR in the last week. It's now time to isolate myself in a cold room and be constantly disappointed, not by the servers, but just by the content that's out there.
I also love that people talking about this as an AR game, which of course using the map system and stuff it does. But
Yeah.
I also love that all right, first thing you need to do in this game is turn off the AR if you want to play it right.
I mean, it's just more efficient
Right,
that
yeah.
way.
I completely agree. It's silly and like it makes for good, tweets and whatnot to have the camera on. But I think when people talk about AR, yeah, you mentioned it's the maps. It's the idea that like if you broaden out the definition a little bit, it still applies.
There's nothing funnier than finding a grimer in your toilet and posting it to the whole world. Right? That's what everyone has been doing since the start of this game, and it's never stopped.
That's what Buster Keaton would be doing today if he were
you know
alive.
what? I still like it. I like when people post pictures of like, hey, look at this drowsy. It's at JV's desk, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. It's really on his head right there.
That's funny stuff.
Poor JD.
Dan, World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah.
Without getting into the nitty gritty, what's happening with the world?
Well, so we got about a month here to the Legion release. A new expansion, lots of new stuff. The new pre-patch is in, so tons of classes got a huge makeover. Almost a lot of them did. Almost the vast majority of the stuff didn't change so much, like warriors and stuff like that. They were already in a good place, but a lot of the emphasis behind this was to get class specs feeling different from the sort of the homogenized class system.
Smarter or just kind of jumbled up?
They have their own personal flavor now, so like you can really tell the difference between the combat rogue, which is now the outlaw, or like an assassination rogue, instead of just being like, yeah, whatever, we're making a group, just get DPS. It doesn't matter. They're all boring. They all shoot stuff or hit stuff. Okay. Now they have some of that more original flavor where you get unique abilities specific to your class specialization. Like I've been playing the pirate the last few days. I mean, it's basically a distilled combat rogue, right? But it's cuter about the way it does things. Like you roll dice to see what buffs you get. And, you're focused around swinging swords, and you can parlay and you can bribe humanoids. It's just a lot of more fun stuff that make it feel, yes, I feel different than just another thing hitting 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Okay.
It's cool. It's cool that they're bringing some of that flavor back. After making sure of the last 6 years have been really a push toward everybody can do everything, so just go and do the thing.
So they kind of changed the mechanics before Legion comes out, and then when Legion comes out, it's just those new mechanics and then the new content.
Since the changes are so significant, now is your chance to go in and see what your character will play like in the expansion. Since the changes were so sweeping, like on my hunter, it's like Arcane Shot now gives you focus instead of like taking mana, or not taking mana but focus, since that was changed a long time ago. But everything works differently, so you can go learn your class and decide what you want to play before the expansion hits, and you really get into your spec, because in the expansion you're going to be getting an artifact weapon that's specific to your spec that gives you basically another talent tree.
Okay.
Which is crazy. So
what's the community feeling? Are they positive about these changes? Are they worried about anything with Legion?
After one day, I honestly don't know what the community's been feeling about it, because I haven't looked. I've just been playing.
Sure.
Just to get a taste of what am I going to play in the expansion, right? And test out some of the new transmogrification stuff. It's all under one big wardrobe now, so you don't have to carry around all that junk with you. You can just go to the guy and be like, I want to go put that mask on that I got from a dungeon 6 years ago on another character. I want to wear that right now. Okay, sure, you can do it. Yeah. So that's neat. It's just a lot of like quality of life stuff, just getting ready to move into the big push next month. You
excited about Legion?
As much as I have been about a World of Warcraft expansion, sometime, yes.
Oh, really?
I think this is sort of like a make or break expansion for them in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm sure the game probably has 3 more expansions planned already, right?
I think it's made a pretty dollar so far.
Oh, it's been okay. It has no significance at all in the industry. But it's just like Draenor was really presented itself really strong, and I think this is almost true for the last 2 expansions. Almost, it's like they come out of the gates hot, and then a few months in, there's no follow up content. And then you go, in some cases, an actual year with no content additions, which is
that where
insane.
we're at?
Not this time. I think this is a year. I think it's from a year from the last thing. And then we had that with the last expansion as well, which is just like, you can't do that, right? If it was any other MMO but WoW, people would be like, what? I'm subbing to this for what? What am I getting? I don't know. Nothing. Oh, cool. I'll go do the pet battles. All right. But hopefully that's something that gets addressed this time around, and we'll see.
I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but one of the things I think is really interesting after is WoW at 12 years?
12
now?
years.
Like,
give or take.
If you look in the first few years after WoW came out, there were all of these attempts to be like the next WoW or the WoW killer, right? And I think it's really interesting that like we have gotten to the point now where it's like WoW has survived all challengers. This is a regent on a throne that will not be overtaken.
He's
at this
scarred,
point.
but he's strong.
Well, no, I mean, someone might build another throne. Like the thing that gets bigger than World of Warcraft, maybe it's Pokemon Go or something. Like it's going to be a different thing. I like the fact that after 12 years, all of these people came sort of gunning for WoW and its audience, and at the end, like WoW is still at the top of
Yeah.
that particular like section.
for the
sure.
for the classic EverQuest style MMO.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's king of that kingdom, and at this point, like no one's gonna try and take it down, and no one has succeeded yet. So it's just sort of it's dictator for life.
Let's
You
talk
know.
about two things you mentioned there. Dan Tack brought this up, and I'm angry I didn't think of it myself. You brought up the idea of like, what if Blizzard made one of these GPS RPGs?
I did. bring that up.
Imagine how well they could nail it in the classic Blizzard formula.
Well, I brought it up because like I don't think the market can handle more than like 2 of these at the same time.
Yeah.
Because just
Do you think
You're
that'll
gonna run
eventually
into-
happen though? That we'll have a bunch of like GPS AR.
Oh, I mean,
game.
for sure. There's
that would be really interesting.
there will be
Yeah.
attempts. There will be attempts, but again, they will almost all fail because you can't. You're gonna walk around on your phone with 7 different AR games and pop them all up at every corner. You just can't do that.
Well, and also not everyone has access to the data that like Ingress has, for instance.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot
For
of
sure.
proprietary technology at play there that
There is.
has been years in the making and just now sort of being
Mhm.
refocused in a different direction.
Definitely. But in terms of the studios that I would like to see tackle something in the Pokemon Go vein, I think I'm going Blizzard. Get that weird Hearthstone team off to the side in a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
Get those guys cooking on
And
something
what I said
new.
they should do, is you combine the ARG stuff from the Pokemon Go and Ingress with sort of the Clash Royale thing, okay, and then you make the new RTS that we always wanted, right?
So go around, collect units, and then use
Sure.
them in Clash Royale.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, make Final Fantasy go.
That would, I would enjoy that
with
too.
Square's line, Final Fantasy Go would mean something else entirely. That'd be the
Yeah,
tactical
I was just
turn-based
thinking,
thing.
I'm like, there's gonna be
Yeah.
you
really get in a
confusion
car
now.
with your friends and drive around.
Yeah, yeah. Catch
Perfect.
some cactuars.
It'd be so
I
sweet.
can't argue with that.
It's coming. You know this crap's coming. And I'm excited to see it. I hope someone does something really new with it. All right, should we move on to emails, everybody?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
All right. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We got some emails, some hot emails from viewers and listeners. You can send your email into podcast@gameinformer.com. If we read it on the show and we choose it as our email of the week, we'll send you out something real nice, which Dantak promised is his blue suede shirt there.
I was not joking.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
The winner gets that?
Yeah, you think I was joking? No, I'm serious.
You swear to God you're going to slap a label and
I don't-
ship that off?
I don't make any religious affiliations on the program, but
Uh-huh.
that's what they'll get.
Of course you don't. All right, so hey, maybe this is a curse to whoever wins it, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
Can we give them something better?
We'll also give him something nice. Don't worry. It won't just be a sweaty jacket
This
from
is
Mr.
insane.
Mime over here.
This is insane.
Podcastinginformer.com is where you send in emails. Also, keep in mind the Pokemon emails that we got earlier. They're also in the running because we appreciated those. Real quickly, touching on last week's episode, which is about what we thought, Joe and I included, and some other guests, were the most underrated games of the generation.
Oh,
People wrote in a lot. Emmett from Massachusetts says that Bird Story, which is the spiritual successor to The Moon, is his
a good
most
choice.
underrated.
I had no idea how to successor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Samuel Evans writes in Godzilla on PS4, Black Ops 3, weird one, Knack, Shadow Warrior, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is Samuel Evans' number 1 most underrated game of the generation.
Certainly underrated.
He says he doesn't have any issues, any bugs. He loved it. Let's see. Dan from Elmer, New Jersey writes in praising about Spec Ops: The Line. That's a previous generation, but that game is so cool, I'll give it a pass. But Brian Rodriguez writes in and says, hey guys, I love the Top 5 Underrated Games podcast. Definitely good choices throughout. So I was wondering what was or are some of the games you think are overrated. One of mine is Telltale's Walking Dead Season 1. The dialogue is sometimes cringeworthy, animations are pretty bland, and the choices still lead to the same place, but still a decent game. Do you guys have go-tos for most overrated games?
I don't want to go first.
You have to, Dantak. You shouldn't have said that.
So part of the problem with talking about overrated games is it immediately sounds like you're trying to like provoke response, right? Like everyone loves this, but I don't love this. I have a fine taste. People are stupid.
That's what we're going for,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's difficult. Like let's approach this with the understanding that we're not trying to rile anyone up, and that people have different opinions, and sometimes we just play games that we don't like as much as other people.
That's exactly right. So I'll go first.
Okay.
Recently, I checked this game up from the vault because I've never really given the series much of a chance and wanted to get ready for the new one. Started God of War 3. Really didn't enjoy that.
All right.
And it's remastered, so I'll consider it part of this generation.
Okay.
Still just seems like a parody of a video game to me. It was like, oh, I'm so mad. Look at all this blood. Crazy spectacle. And just realized like nothing's paying off here. Nothing's making me satisfied while playing this. And Joe, I know you gave it a 10, so I know that's sacrilegious.
No, that's fine.
All right, what do you have, Joe?
There's time and place involved in any scoring.
Very
also.
much so.
Like if God of War 3 were a brand new game that came out today, I don't know that it would get the same score. I don't know that it wouldn't, but I mean, like, the landscape changes. For me, I would say overrated. I mean, I'd go probably with Dark Souls or Bloodborne, one of those, which is like overrated.
Going for the throat, Joe.
Well, no, and
Those games are crap.
This is why I was saying at the beginning that there's. But for me anyway, I don't think they're bad games, but where other people sort of hold them high into this like high nines sort of like score territory, for me they're solid like 8.85s. Like, yeah, that's fun.
Okay.
But
Elise, what do you got?
Oh boy, I feel like people are gonna hate me for this one. But,
Yeah, sure. What's the point?
I mean, so I don't hate this game at all. But I just
We got to stop cushioning this. It's like Silicon Valley. Just get it out there.
I'm gonna go with Ocarina of Time.
Oh, okay.
All right. Get in there.
Going back.
There are several Zelda games that I love, like Wind Waker and Link to the Past, but I don't know. Like it was never my favorite, and then whenever I talked to anybody else, it was like their go-to, like Ocarina is the best one.
It's my third parent.
Yeah, and I replayed it like on 3DS, I think maybe a year ago or whenever it come out on 3DS, and I just found it really clunky and just not as fun as I remembered, and just like I don't know, it's not my favorite Zelda game, but it's a great game, and it's really, I don't know.
But still, do you want to give out your Twitter handle so people can yell at you?
No, I'll let them find that themselves.
Search it out, everybody.
I'm going to steal Tack's thunder for a second and give an answer that I'm much more passionate about.
Okay.
Dark Souls was sort of at the front of my mind, but I would say Shadow of Mordor.
Oh, going back. Okay.
Going back a few years, like I cannot believe that game was sort of like part of our Game of the Year discussions and all that.
It was 2014 was dry.
It was a bad year.
That year had Dragon Age, and in my mind, like Dragon Age was so far above. Anyway, point being is that like Shadow of Mordor as an open world game, like it just felt dead to me. The combat,
it's Mordor.
Yeah, and the Nemesis system, which is the whole like pillar of the game, just falls apart into absolutely nothing at the end. You know, it's like, okay. So anyway, Shadow of Mordor is one that I will be a lot more passionate about. Like, I did not think it was nearly as good as other people did.
Dantek, make some enemies. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, and now that Joe's brought that up, honestly, before I say anything else, I want to make sure that I take an absolute crap on Shadow of Mordor. Because absolutely overrated turd.
Open up, Talion.
Absolutely. I guess before that, I was thinking, like, there's this game. It's BioShock Infinite.
Oh,
I know a lot of people
going after Joe's 10s.
Really critically, it's in there in the 9.5s, 10s, but I see it more of around an 8 or an 8.5.
Fair enough. Nice original thoughts there.
Yeah, they were.
Where is this coming from?
No, it wasn't even as close as good as the first one, right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna just knock it from that? Okay.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything cool.
Anything cool?
It
was just a series of cool things.
Like
it was just all right.
City in the clouds.
It was just all right.
Man.
It was just okay.
People can have their opinions. That's a great thing about
not Dan Tack,
Yeah,
apparently, with outrageous nonsense like that. Anyways, Kale Stafford writes in looking for Dan Tack's opinion, saying, hey guys, with all the big news about the new Overwatch character Anna, everyone seems super excited to get the chance to play her and try out her new abilities. If you could design a new Overwatch character, what kind of character would you design and what abilities would you give them? So before we get to that think piece, Dan, I'm curious about your take on Anna so far and just the current state of Overwatch.
It's been like a day, man.
Yeah, so please tell.
Obviously, I think she's going to find her way into well-constructed teams. She seems like a really bad choice for just getting in and shooting some shots.
Yeah.
She really requires you to have excellent coordination with your teammates. I think her sleep dart is an amazing skill. I don't think it's being underrated, but any move that can just shut down an ultimate is crazy good, and it's only on a 12-second cooldown, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, yeah, I think she's a really cool, really flavorful, a healing sniper. Who's heard of that? That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool. And great design, and they pulled off Old Woman. Like, when is that ever in an FPS? I mean, I'm being serious.
Yeah, no, it's a good
How do you
point.
do that and make it cool? And they did that.
Right.
So, boom.
By making it a mom.
Yeah.
As for new characters and new abilities, we don't need to get into like, and they're wearing a dumb kind of blueberry type shirt. But just as far as abilities, you feel like are lacking in the Overwatch space.
I don't know. It's like a mob boss or something. What I think would be cool.
What does that mean?
Like, 'cause there are not enough bad guys in the game right now, in my opinion.
Okay.
You've got like Reaper, and then some other people who have like unsavory, perhaps different morals than other characters. But they're not. There's no like outside of like the Widowmaker and Reaper. They're all good guys.
Yeah.
So let's get some more evil people in there and play with those tropes.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. I think I want more people that can kind of like modify the geography. I'm so in love with Maze Wall. I know it drives everybody nuts, but I think that's so much fun. But if I could combine that aspect a little bit more with like Junkrat's traps and create like these intricate traps that somehow modify the geometry, I'd be really into that.
I'd like a character based on Peter Falk's Columbo character.
He just wanders in.
He goes around and solves murder. Basically, I want a Columbo investigative game while Overwatch is happening.
Right.
Like he doesn't he doesn't fight. He doesn't engage. It's just I want a Columbo game.
Basically, a Columbo Go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Everyone you catch is the murderer.
Perfect. Love it.
I like that one too.
Cortland Field writes in and says, "Hey guys, I'm pretty excited for the mini NES that was recently announced. 30 classic NES games for $60. Great deal. I think the next logical step would be..."
Did you send this in Nintendo?
Ben Hanson writes in.
I think the next logical step would be a mini Super NES, which brings about the question of what games would be loaded on it. Obviously, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Yoshi's Island, Link to the Past. But what else? What other games do you guys think have to be on it? Also, he points out a mini Game Boy would be awesome too.
I mean, you could just stack 30 awesome SNES RPGs in that, and it would be fine.
Get some Earthbound in there.
Yeah, you'd have to have Uniracer.
Donkey Kong
Metal
Country.
Warriors.
I think the RPGs are key. I mean, you get like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, or I mean 2 and 3 on Super Nintendo.
4 and 6.
We use 4 and 6.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to get some of those in there. I think you need like F-Zero.
Yeah, I mean the Nintendo stuff seems like a lock if they're making it themselves. Just amount of third-party interaction. But I mean, they already got Capcom on board with the NES version with like Mega Man 2's in there, and then they have Square on board with the first Final Fantasy being in there. I mean,
with SNES, I think we go above 30. Man, you could pick 60 classics for that system, no problem.
Oh man, that would be so awesome if they do that.
For like $100, you'd still pay it.
I would. Honestly.
I'd say, what is it? It's 60. It's 60 for the current one.
Or, you know what? I'm
80 for 60.
Okay.
What I think might be a good idea, and I don't know that they would necessarily do this, but like some sort of expansion option for it, right? So it's like it ships with 30, but maybe you buy a wave 2 for another 30 and like get those in there.
But when the whole point is like a self-contained package, don't you feel like it kind of defeats that idea?
Well, yes and no. I mean, like if I don't know why they're limited to 30. You know, like I mean, I find it hard to believe that there aren't hard drives large enough to fit more than that on there. But if there is some sort of technical reason why it's like, look, we should really just cap it at 30.
They looked at the rare replay, I think, and that was the 30. So
I think they're just trying to make it like a toy, right? It's literally like a Christmas toy.
It's going to do gangbusters.
It is.
Right?
I am totally buying one of those. If nothing else, to show my support for it, so they do the Super Nintendo one, because I'd like the Nintendo one, but like I really want the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah.
Same for me.
David Eaton writes in and says, "Dear Game Informer Show crew, I was wondering if you'd want to see a whole line of mini versions of classic consoles preloaded with games, Sega Genesis, Atari 2600, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, or would you rather see more digital versions of classic games make their way onto current consoles?"
More digital, I would say.
Why not both?
Yeah,
JPG?
I mean, I'd love the Super Nintendo one, but like I don't know, if they're gonna be all like really expensive, and if digital games might be more affordable. So
it is fascinating to me to think about that audience of people that are like that hear about this classic mini NES and they're like, oh my god, sold! I can play Mario on my modern TV. Yet they all had Wii's and didn't bother going through the eShop to download those games.
It's the whole nostalgia thing, you know.
But it's nostalgia, but it's complicated nostalgia with the eShop and downloading these on the virtual console.
And part of it is that I know that for us, it seems like a nostalgic throwback of like, oh, it looks like a little mini Nintendo, but like it sells the idea. Like, I think that there is a barrier, like a technology barrier of like, oh, people who play video games need a Wii U or they need an Xbox. Like those things are sort of pushed off into a sphere that's just like, I don't have those, or I'm not interested in learning what those are, or they're complicated or whatever. That if you just pull out this little box, it's like, hey, HDMI, plug it in, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like I think that's smart, and because we've been seeing ridiculous. Like there have been so many collections, Capcom Classics Collection, Sega Classics Collection, that have tried the same thing.
Yeah.
Though I'd say the games on those collections have not felt quite as curated as the
Mhm.
30 that we're getting on like the mini NES. Because a lot of times there's just like a lot of crap that no one ever wants to play.
Totally.
On those. But
Yeah. God, who would have thought if 2 years ago I would have told you a Nintendo in 2016 is going to have a huge year. Pokemon on mobile, and they're selling the NES again, and their stock prices are soaring. What a weird world, but I love it.
Crazy.
God, game industry is fun, you guys.
it is.
Kalel Pryor writes in and says, "Hello, GI crew. What do y'all think about the fighting game community and esports as a whole breaking into the broadcast television scene? Do you think it's worth it and things will progress that way in the future, or are things like Twitch streams where they belong?" This is commenting on EVO being on ESPN2 over the weekend. Dan, you watched a little bit of that, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
How'd it go?
We've seen this before. Like, this is certainly not the first time esports has been on ESPN2. I think it will continue in the future. I agree with many people who I've talked to in the industry from these companies, from like, Riot, and Blizzard stuff. These audiences are out there on Twitch. There's really no huge desire to go to TV for a lot of them.
Mhm.
But if people want it there, I'm sure it'll progress. I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I didn't think the numbers were that great on that for the viewership. But we'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just seems like an advertising route. Seems to be the route that Blizzard
Sure.
took with the Heroes of the Dorm and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But with EVO, I mean, is that the benefit of just like, hey, let's get Street Fighter V onto ESPN
Hey,
just for the sake of a long commercial?
Anytime I see fighting games, back in the spotlight, that's great. Since
Yeah.
any love they can get is good, I think, considering where they are now compared to where they were
Yeah.
in the spotlight so many years ago.
How did 5 stack up? Was it? I mean, people have been playing Street Fighter 4 in those competitions for so long.
Looked like, I don't want to make, I'm not making any bold claim here. I did not watch much of it, but from what I saw, the meta was pretty stagnant, like 3 characters,
Yeah.
like Chun-Li, Armika, and Nash.
They're kind of like the
Those were the big-
Golbat and the
those were the
Hypno of
gold
that
standards.
crowd.
Yeah, I always like to see a lot of variation when I'm watching a tournament. That's just what I like. But if those are the best characters, why not play them, right? So
Yeah.
there it is.
All right. Let's see. Joe, this is kind of a question for you.
Okay.
It's from an Attack Corgi, a.k.a. Crew Hunter, a.k.a. Hunter Clement. For a game like No Man's Sky, where completionists would have to live billions of years to complete it, how can you review it? The game is just so massive, its objective is so nebulous and far-reaching that how do you know when your impression is accurate or even useful?
Yeah, that's a. I mean, that's a good question that sort of gets to the heart of like our review process, which I'm not going to lay out point for point, but I think it boils down to like there's a point in the game in almost any game that like you see what the game has to offer. You know how the systems work. You know what things look like, and you see a lot of great moments. So it's like
In those Infinite games, you mean?
yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. So it's like I'm trying to think of like I reviewed Spore way back when.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh. So it's like I don't need to see every creature that any user has ever created.
There's only so many genitalia out there.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, like that's kind of my point is that like you don't need to see every possible thing you can make to have a pretty comprehensive idea of the possibilities and to have great moments that stick with you. And at some point in games like that, I think you wonder like there's no set like prescription of like this is when it is, but at some point you feel confident that like, yep, I have seen the best that this game has to offer. Or you wonder how much any new creature you see is really going to move the needle on a score when you've already, like when all of the other things in play in a game of that scope are already weighing on it. You
Yeah.
know?
That
So,
game's coming out soon, you guys.
Yeah, couple
It's-
weeks.
Really
it's-
soon.
Oh my gosh, right on the horizon. All right. Weird. The same Eric Peterson from Florida writes in. Hello again, sir. And he says, hello, greetings, informers of game. Here's the scenario. I like the way this guy writes. You are creating your own personal, ultimate home game room. If each of you had an unlimited budget and availability wasn't a problem, which one arcade game, video game, pinball table, etc., and which one food or drink vending machine would you choose for this ultimate game room?
Wow.
Well, I'm going to cheat here.
Uh-huh.
I have unlimited budget, so I can make my own machine and get whatever I want in it. And
Yeah.
the same goes for the other thing. I can just literally have someone make it to spec, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have to pick. He wants me to pick like, a vending machine or a pinball. Why don't I get like one pinball machine that's actually like, 50?
You just want like a main machine? Is this the way you're choosing?
Yeah, that's what
We
I'm
can
saying.
only choose one
That's
arcade
just
thing.
not in the spirit
No,
of the
that's
question.
fun, Joe.
All right.
That's a fun answer.
Yeah, really
What
nice.
a thrill.
Really nice rules guy Tack.
Yeah, what one arcade game?
Okay. You know in Left Behind when I don't just wait.
Okay.
Just stay with me. When Riley and Ellie find that busted arcade game, and then Riley explains to Ellie what's going on, but you don't see like much at all. But I think like if someone recreated that into an actual arcade game, like the fighting game that was there, that could be really cool to have.
Yeah, you see glimpses of it from what I remember.
You have
right?
like I think there's like some of the like the UI a bit of it comes up.
I like that
but,
hipster deep cut, Elise, going for the arcade game from Left Behind.
You know,
Of course. What about the food drink? Something gluten free, no doubt?
yeah,
She's allergic.
yeah, I deathly, as you know, since you tried to poison me last time.
We don't need
I
to get
was-
into this, Elise. This is a nationally broadcast
just
show.
letting them know, warning, poisoner over here.
Cool.
I don't know, man.
I think-
like I'm not super into soft drinks and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's a food vending machine?
I want, like,
just candy
some
bars.
That's why I
Lay's
cheated.
would be nice.
I want like the ice cream one that has like the chocolate and the vanilla that can get the swirl going so I can just constantly make myself cones. And then I have to go Sunset Riders, which I've played 1,000 times in the arcade. But anything that I can do to like recreate how much I love Sunset Riders in the arcade as a kid,
Mhm.
I'm super on board for. Like even I play a lot of arcade games out at this lake lot, which I think I've mentioned 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But to the point, I've gotten so nerdy and so sadly trying to recreate my childhood with that at my old arcade that I played it as a kid, there was this like rubber mat with like little rubber tingies, and it would feel really funky on your feet. And so I scoured Amazon to find one of these rubber mats so that I can put it below the arcade machine so I can stand on it and my feet will feel the same way that they used to when I played arcade games as a
Wow, you are a
Goodness.
weirdo.
kid. And I'm wearing someone
Yeah.
else's skin.
That is
Yeah.
a super weird thing.
I would go
Yeah.
with basic Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
That's a good choice.
That one probably has the most like nostalgia of any arcade machine wrapped around for me.
Yeah.
Maybe go with like an icy machine.
Good stuff.
So not cheating. I go
Uh-huh.
with a pizza vending machine just to buy the slice. That's got to exist, right? I can make that with a limited budget.
What is this, Wonka? Like, you just want a pizza to come out?
And I want that game that didn't exist, the Polybius or whatever it is, Polybius.
What are you talking about? What is this?
That crazy machine that like made people go crazy.
What? Tell the story. I don't know what this is.
Is this some like Lovecraft
Don't know what
shit
you're
you've got
talking
going
about.
on? Or
We'll
what?
talk about that on the next podcast.
No, I genuinely want to know if there's a good story. What is it?
There is. It's like urban legend kind of stuff.
What is it?
It was like a machine that was allegedly it made you go crazy and kill people, and they had to take him out. It was like a CIA experiment or something.
So this didn't actually exist.
well, that's debatable.
Is it like Mothman? Like that level of like BS?
Like well, it's man, it's urban legend territory. This is way more than this question asked for.
No, but I just don't know if it's like urban legend in the same way that like Michael Jackson composed Sonic 3 or urban legend as in Bigfoot. Like what level of urban legend are we talking about?
I would say
here?
somewhere between the two.
Okay. Thanks for narrowing it down, Tack.
I changed my vending machine answer. There was a candy bar. I don't even know if it exists anymore.
Uh-huh.
There was a candy bar in the 80s called the Good Stuff Bar. It was kind of like a whatchamacallit that I really loved.
Infinite. Okay.
I know what
So
I would do.
I
I
get
get a bunch
those.
of Canadian candy bars in there, like O. Henry. And
What about a
do
beaver
you guys
tail?
have Kit Kat, or is that only?
We have Kit Kat.
Oh,
We
do
do
you?
Yeah,
have
they're
Kit Kat.
worldwide. Yeah. But
Do you
tell
have
us about this beaver tail, the legendary dessert from Montreal.
Which I can't eat, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
but no, it's that's everywhere. It's like a pastry kind of thing.
It's a giant
yeah.
pastry covered with everything that's good in the world.
Yeah, that's it.
It is to dessert what poutine is to basically bar food.
But it looks really good. I've never actually eaten one, which
It's
is like
really good.
Well, we'll have to
ridiculous.
eat one and tell you all about it.
Yeah, we'll describe it in detail.
That sucks.
All right, you guys, favorite email of the week.
I like that last one.
Everyone always likes the last one.
Yeah, that one was.
There's also the overrated one, Dan
No,
Tack
the
as
one
Mr.
about
Mime.
No,
the
I-
arcade machines. And
Yeah.
things,
I,
that was,
I
Okay.
remember them. I like the last one.
And the fact that he sent in 2, I guess we should really...
Okay, I
that he
can't
got
argue
2
with
on
that.
the show. They're good. So
did
congratulations, Eric from Florida. We'll send you out something real nice.
In addition to this sweaty coat tax wearing.
It will not be sweaty. It will be dry cleaned and signed.
Are you dry cleaned and signed?
Who's
Dan,
gonna sign
are you
I
joking?
am, obviously.
Oh,
Eric, when you receive this in the mail, please take a picture and send it back, and we'll pop it on the show.
Well, you're
for
shipping
YouTube
it out with the
viewers.
rest of the stuff, so you'll know it's there.
Oh, you're shipping this one. I'm not going to fold up your weird sack.
I'm gonna blue.
Okay, wow. This podcast is getting a little
That's
hostile.
Send it in and we will apologize.
We will
right.
send a note of apology.
Hey, should we talk to Ron Gilbert, everybody?
Let's do it.
Here's a nice chat with Ron Gilbert. Ron Gilbert, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you, man.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, you're a quick turnaround. Just send an email out, and this legendary game designer is like, yep, I'm on board. Let's go. I love it.
Well, I live at my computer, so
So you work remotely then on Thimbleweed Park?
yeah, I work at home, and all of the team members are all over the world. You know, we have people in England and Spain and Canada, and it's just all over. So I don't think really any of us actually work in the same space together.
Oh, wow. So you guys have a podcast that I really appreciate where it's basically just your stand-up meetings and there's kind of short updates for the community about where you guys are at.
Right.
And so that explains why it's all Skype. But like, how did you find this team to put together for this project?
Well, obviously, you know, Gary Winnick and I have known each other a long time, you know, doing Maniac Mansion. And then the next person we brought on was David Fox, we had also worked with at Lucasfilm. You know, he had done game programming on Maniac Mansion. So he was kind of a natural fit, you know, for somebody to come on and do game programming for us. And then after that, we brought on Mark Ferrari, who was also, you know, an old Lucasfilm vet who did the art for the original Monkey Island. And so that was kind of the core group we started with. And then we needed, you know, some animators, and we found Octavi, who's from Spain, and it's just an incredible 8-bit animator. And we just kind of, you know, grown from there, just, you know, adding, you know, different team members piece by piece.
Yeah, for sure. So working from home with this kind of throwback project with some old friends of yours, is it relaxing? Is it a good time? How's it going for you?
Oh, it is anything but relaxing. You know, a project to me it's always relaxing for about maybe the first half of it, right? Because you're just creating a lot of stuff. It's all just these wonderful dreams that you're putting together. And then the second half is the reality of everything that you've created is finally dawning on you. And it's just a whole lot of work, right? And you're realizing, oh, we need to cut this, or this doesn't work, or, you know, play testers are confused here, and it just gets incredibly stressful. And then you get to the phase that we're in right now, which is, you know, the last you know, quarter of the project, and that's even more stressful because, you know, you're dealing with you know, the lovely press calling you up all the time and wanting to do interviews, and you're doing all this other stuff, and you're saying, you know, I wish everyone would just leave me alone and I could work on my game.
So if you could perpetually just be like in the first half of projects, just abandon a project halfway through and let other people finish it, that's your ideal world?
Yeah, that is the dream. I guess it's to make prototypes and then get them to a certain point and abandon them and then start something else. I don't think that pays the rent.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's tough to make a profit on that. So how are you feeling about the game so far?
It's great. You know, we're really happy, you know, with the way it's turned out and stuff. So, I mean, sometimes it's hard to see that, you know, when you're at the end of a project, because I don't think in my entire career, I have ever worked on a game that I didn't hate by the time I was done with it. So I imagine I will hate Thimbleweed Park by the time it's over. But, you know, I think if you kind of get through that, it's like you realize that, you know, it's actually a really fun game. We get a lot of really good feedback from outside play testers we bring in to play the game. They really, really enjoy it quite a bit. So we actually had one of our play testers contacted us the other day and wanted to let us know, you know, how much she appreciated the puzzle design at Thimbleweed Park, because she had just started playing another adventure game and realized just how bad the puzzles were. And it really made her realize, oh, you know what, the puzzles in Thimbleweed Park are actually well thought out and well done. So it's, you know, it's kind of nice.
Nice. So it's kind of the overall pitch is, you know, going back to the heyday of adventure games, a throwback, but does it have modern design sensibilities? I'm still trying to get a feel for like if this is going to be intimidating. I see all the verbs on the screen and I'm automatically like, well, I'm going to get stuck in this game. So you talk about like that balance and where you think the game's at now?
Yeah, it's, you know, we don't like to call it a retro game because, you know, although it does have a lot of the 8-bit aesthetic to it, which, you know, is really just an artistic choice that we've made for the stuff. But there are a lot of more modern things that we're doing with the game design. And, you know, I think when we were making games back in the 80s and early 90s, it was kind of okay for people to be stuck. I think it's what people almost expected from those games back then. But I don't think people want that anymore. They want puzzles that are designed very intelligently and that do make some logical sense. They can still be challenging puzzles, but it's like when you solve a puzzle, you want to go, oh yeah, okay, I should have got that, right? You want the player to blame themselves for not getting a puzzle, never blaming you for not getting a puzzle, as a designer. And so those are just lessons, that we've learned over the years of making games. And I think that, modern gamers or people who are not really into point and click adventure games, they want a little more focus in the narration. They don't want to be told where to go, but they want to know that they're going in the right direction. And so there's just a lot of little things like that we're doing with the design, which just kind of help, comfort you in a way. So, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going in the right direction without just leading them in the right direction. So there's a lot of, modern things like that we're doing to the game.
Okay, just more lines of dialogue saying, hey, have you checked over there? That type of thing.
Yeah, and, more, signpost markers in the world, more, subtle things you might come across in the world that say, hey, this is an interesting thing over here. Pay attention to this. It's stuff like that. And it's the kind of things that we didn't really think about back then putting into a game. But, over the years, you see more of that. And I think that's the kind of thing that will make the game, be really appealing to players today who maybe don't even play, point and click adventure games.
Yeah, so you talk about not wanting players to blame the game, and I'm curious, the actual puzzles themselves that you got to compliment on, how advanced are they? How have they changed? I don't know, how has your sense of puzzle design changed over the last 20 years? I mean, you've designed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things now. Is it still, I don't know, is there some resemblance to that old style, or do you have a new formula for these?
I think there's a lot of resemblance to it. It is a point-and-click adventure game, and I think a point-and-click adventure games have a certain puzzle style to them. As opposed to a game like like Firewatch or a game like Kentucky Route Zero, which are at their core adventure games, but they have a very different style of puzzle, right? They have a very different way of moving you through the narrative, where point-and-click adventures have a certain style, and we're certainly doing that style of puzzle, but it's not about, combining two things in a ridiculous way that makes no sense, right? It's not about randomly trying everything in your inventory with everything on the screen to see what works, right? Because once you've pushed a player to that point, it's like you've kind of lost them in a way. Now they're just randomly flailing around. And so I think with good modern puzzle design, it's just about designing puzzles that make logical sense. You see two things and a little light bulb goes off in your head and you go, oh, well, that's interesting, right? And then you might try it and go, okay, now I see what's going on. It's about making things clear to people about what's happening. I think that's the big change in modern adventure game design.
Nice. So I'm curious, with the more open development of this game, what it's been like for you. You have the podcast, you've had a lot of communication with the fans. What do you think about this transparency for the team?
It's good and bad. I enjoy it because I enjoy interacting with the people. It's fun to talk about our process, and it's fun to do the podcasts and the blog posts and stuff. And I think that's really fun. But there's also there's a weird pressure on it all. And I think one of the biggest things is you normally, and this applies to any creative work, right? Whether it's a book or a movie or a song or whatever, but things go through a lot of changes in the course of their development. You start with an idea and you change a lot of stuff and you move it and you massage it, and it's finally becomes the thing that people finally see. And that has kind of been difficult because I've kind of felt like maybe I can't make the broad changes that I want to make. I want to make a big change, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure I can really do that. I mean, there have been some things we've done, and it's about communicating well with people about why you're doing this change. And I think that's a little bit of the educational process that I'm hoping people find, in following this Kickstarter is when we make changes to the game or we do things differently, explaining, well, this is why we did this. This is why we made this change. So, that probably adds a little bit of work to the project that wouldn't be there if we were just, doing this behind closed doors.
I think it's held you back in some areas where it's like, well, I could convince the team of this, but now I have to convince the entire internet of this too.
I don't know whether to tell this back or not, because that piece has always been in the back of my head. Maybe I haven't really entertained big changes because I know, oh, well, I really can't do this. I really can't go from 5 playable characters to 4 playable characters, right? A change like that, because we promised certain things on the Kickstarter, maybe those things just never really entered my mind, where maybe they would have, if this wasn't done as a Kickstarter. So it's hard to say whether that's true or not.
Yeah, it'd be so interesting just to like have 2 versions, basically the A/B test Thimbleweed Park, right? One that's done completely in secret and see what that game looks like versus the transparent one. Because I think about this a lot. Like, if you were having podcast and having this many community interactions, whatnot, for like developing Monkey Island, like how different would that game look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Doing a game like Monkey Island, and I think about that a little bit. If I ever got a chance to make Monkey Island 3, right? I'd love to make that game, but I don't think I'd want to make that game like I'm making Thimbleweed Park. It's like I don't think I'd want to make that game exposing every little change that I'm making to the game or every decision that I'm doing, because I think that Monkey Island is so steeped in nostalgia for people that. I think as I kind of moved and changed things, it's like people might start to freak out about stuff. And I probably would spend a lot of time explaining, well, why I'm doing this, as opposed to just having the game come out and seeing more of the final product and not really seeing, the sausage factory that everything's made in. So, if I ever get to make a Monkey Island, I think I'm going to probably do it behind closed doors.
Are you that passionate about making a new Monkey Island? Is it just something... I would love to make one. I would absolutely love to make a new one. I've had the story in my head for many, many years, and I would love to do it. But I need to own it to make it, right? I don't want to license it from Disney. I don't want somebody looking over my shoulder, because I want to make the game I want to make, right? And I kind of feel like the new Monkey Island I would make would be completely unmarketable. But that's totally okay with me, right? Because to me, it's the game I want to make. It is the true, successor to, the first 2 games. But, it's not going to all be in 3D. It's not going to, all this other stuff. But, it's hard for me to believe that it would actually be a marketable game. That's okay. It's interesting because I don't know what the difference would be. I mean, it's still going to appeal to the fans of the first 2, right? And isn't that kind of the crowd you're trying to get in with Thimbleweed Park?
Well, I think it will appeal to Monkey Island fans. I think it'll just completely appeal to them. But I think if you were to you were to say to Disney or any other big company, it's like, hey, I want to make a new one of these. I think the first thing you get is their marketing team would jump on you and go, okay, well, how are we going to modernize this? How are we going to attract this new market segment to the game? How are we? And they'll start asking all those questions, which are, completely legitimate questions to ask, but not for this game, right? Because to me, this game is about making, I call it Monkey Island 3A, right? This is making the Monkey Island I would have made had I stayed at Lucasfilm. And I think that really kind of requires a very different type of game to be made. And I'm just not so sure a big company could deal with that.
Yeah. Were you tempted to, instead of Thimbleweed Park, make a game just called like Ape Archipelago and just try and get that? Because it's probably...
That's been suggested so many times to me that that's what I should do. And it always seems lame. It's like I feel like I shouldn't be ripping off my own stuff. It's like if I'm going to make a new Monkey Island, it should be a new Monkey Island. It should not just be a chimp and pirate based game.
Totally. But I mean, it's sealed away in the Disney vault, right? I mean, do you open up those communications at all?
It's the issue isn't about talking to Disney. It's about talking to the right people at Disney. Mm-hmm. And that's, I fear the right people at Disney are so far up the chain that they probably don't even know they own this thing called Monkey Island.
But I mean, with Double Fine's work remastering some of those old adventure games,
but those were just licenses, right? I mean, those were just licenses that were all done through Sony. I mean, that wasn't even directly connecting with Disney. So I think buying back the rights to the game, which is really what I want to do, is a huge mountain to climb.
Yeah, it'd be tough. Before we get off Monkey Island, I have to ask you real quick if you played Uncharted 4.
I have not played it. I don't own a PlayStation. I'm an Xbox person, so I have not played it, but believe me, I have fielded thousands of tweets over the last couple of weeks of people telling me about it.
Did you get a heads up on that one, or was it when the game
I got
came
a
out?
heads up after it had shipped. Right.
Okay.
Just I think it might have even been the night it was released. That I got a tweet from the lead designer just saying, "Hey, there's some stuff in here that I think you'll think is really cool." So that's kind of the heads up I got.
Nice, flattering, fun to see Guybrush's skeleton.
Oh yeah. No, it's super flattering to see, what Monkey Island and Guybrush just kind of means to people in some ways. I get emails and tweets from people who have had Monkey Island weddings, and that's
hell?
That's really cool. I got somebody who wanted to let me know that they named their child Guybrush, and that one kind of scared me a little bit. But obviously, people do really like this, and I think that always makes you feel good. When you create something that means so much to people.
Yeah, definitely. So do you feel like you're scratching a little bit of the Monkey Island itch with Thimbleweed Park then? Is it kind of getting you back into that headspace?
Well, it's definitely scratching the make an adventure game itch. Creating those puzzles and creating worlds and stories and characters and stuff. I think that has been a lot of fun. I mean, Guybrush and the Monkey Island world is a very different world than Thimbleweed Park is. Guybrush is a very interesting character to write for because he was kind of a buffoon, right? And so he was fun because you could make fun of him, and he could be a little bit, a lot naive about a lot of things, and that was fun, right? That was fun to write for. Where the characters in Thimbleweed Park, aren't really buffoons. So it's a very different type of writing style, as you're writing the characters.
Yeah, but you must have gotten that a little bit with The Cave. I mean, there's some buffoon and weirdo characters in that game from Double Fine. When
I mean, the cave was interesting because none of the characters really spoke. So you really weren't writing for them. I mean, all you were writing for was this narrator, of the cave. Right. And so I kind of missed. I mean, to me, that was like a creative challenge with the cave. It's like, can I do this with nothing but a narrator and have the main characters not actually talk? So that was, in some ways, it was a creative challenge to be able to do that. But I think it was really hard. I don't know that I'd want to do it again, though.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the hell out of the cave. That was a really fun co-op experience.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So what do you think about your time at Double Fine in retrospect, then? Do you feel like you got enough done there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of super talented people. I mean, their artists are absolutely amazing, so it was really nice to be able to work with such a talented group of artists, in what they're doing. So, I mean, the cave was an idea that I had for, almost 30 years. I mean, it actually predates Maniac Mansion. So it was fun to actually, finally make that game in a way.
Yeah. So you must have learned a lot of lessons from the Double Fine adventure, which the documentary series is the absolute best, and I really appreciated your segments in it. But you must have learned a lot from that to take forward to Thimbleweed Park's progress then, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff about the Kickstarter itself. I wasn't really involved in the actual production of the game itself, but just, watching the Kickstarter, and looking at, what they did right and what they did wrong. That was one of those things that when we did our Kickstarter, we said, okay, well, we want to make sure we do this. We want to make sure we don't do this. And so that part of it, I think, was very, very useful to have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned how if you ever made a Monkey Island, you'd want to do it in secret. And I feel like that was kind of the conclusion at the end of the Double Fine doc as well, is Tim Schafer saying, like, for what we do next, we just want to be under the radar a little bit more. Like, we're a little bit too exposed out here. But do you feel a little bit too exposed with Thimbleweed Park, or have you hit that right level?
I don't feel too exposed. I think it is the right level. I think when you invite cameras into something, I think you're kind of opening yourself up for even an additional level of exposure. Where we can do the podcast and we can write on the blog, but it can still be a little bit controlled, in how we're doing stuff. And so I don't feel overexposed. I just, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's just a lot of work.
Totally.
I probably spend a good day in every week just dealing with the blog stuff and, dealing with the backers and all of this. So, you imagine, a good, 1/5 of my time is taken away doing nothing but this. So it would be nice, to not do this, because it would just add an entire day that I could get back to actually making the game.
So what are you actually doing on the game then? Are you programming with this thing, mainly writing? What's your process?
I think the two big main things I do are programming and writing. I built the engine, so we've got a 2D point and click engine that I kind of built from scratch. So I'm still doing a lot of work on the engine. It's very similar to what I was doing, back at Lucasfilm. I mean, even on Monkey Island. I mean, I spent maybe half my time on that project just working on the Scum engine. And the other half of it was, doing mostly design stuff and then, a little bit of writing type stuff. And I think that's similar here, except I'm doing a lot more writing on this game than I did on Monkey Island. But
Nice.
Programming and writing, that's my two big jobs.
Do you have a preference between the two?
I think I like programming. I think I'm like a nerd at heart, and I just love to program. I really enjoy programming. So I think if I could do nothing but program, I think I might be generally happy.
I think people would like to read a book that you would write just about like your history through the game industry and the changes in programming. I think you would have a lot to say on the topic. That'd be fascinating.
Yeah, it definitely has changed a lot.
But you still feel like enough is the same at the core where you're able to stay modern?
At the core it is. Yeah, at the core, I love programming, and I think I've always been a kind of designer where I have to really have my fingers in stuff, because I really do. I make games kind of by intuition and experience, right? I don't like writing big long design documents about stuff. I like to just start coding and start playing with the game and seeing how the game feels. And with this game, it's like, I can put in a puzzle and I can play it, and I go, if I don't like that, I just change it, right? I just kind of go up and we do a little programming and I change it and I see it and I don't like it and I change it and I go back to it. And I really enjoy that iterative aspect of making games. And I think that kind of requires you to be a programmer, where if you're a pure designer or you're an artist designer, you're always interfacing with the programmers going, okay, well, I want this change. It's like, no, a little bit different. No, a little bit different. And there's that constant cycle that you're doing, where I can just do that cycle myself. And I like that.
Yeah, it has to be nice. So, I mean, you've had such an experimental career as well. You've gone out and done kids games, iOS, like downloadable stuff on consoles. Like, is there one area that you were especially intrigued by? What is your favorite era of your career? I guess I should ask.
I think the favorite era of my career was probably the kids' games at Humongous Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed those games a lot, because they were adventure games, right? They were real adventure games, right? They weren't just these watered down kids products, but they were, the games had been simplified a little bit, and I think, especially at the time, it's probably not so much true today, but at the time, kids were just mesmerized with these things. They had not really seen stuff like this. Parents had not seen stuff like this, and so it was a little bit of this magical period, being able to do these games for kids, and I found it very interesting, and I also learned a lot as a designer, because kids are not interested in a lot of things that I think, normal, mainstream game people are interested in. They're not interested in technology. They don't really care anything about, what graphics card this runs on. They're really narrative focused, and they're, very character focused. And that was a lot of fun, right? It was a lot of fun to have to figure out how to design puzzles that were intuitive to them, because kids are not going to bang their head against the screen to figure something out, right? Mm-hmm. And so you do have to make things make sense. And I think a lot of those design lessons from doing the Humongous Entertainment stuff have really translated forward. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do in Thimbleweed Park that I can point to directly came from my experience in Humongous Entertainment and making those games, and how we, told stories and, moved the kids through the narrative.
So all modern games are just made for babies? Is that the conclusion?
Yeah, it's just, they're all kids. We're all kids at heart, right?
Yeah, totally. What do you think about like the modern state of gaming market for kids? Do you stay up to date on it? Do you try to keep an eye on things?
I think the gaming market for kids right now is really depressing.
Yeah.
I think it's, kind of right after Humongous Entertainment, the kids market just became nothing but licenses. If you weren't Pixar or Disney or Nickelodeon, it was just impossible to sell anything. And then once you kind of move into licenses, you start to get games where you're spending all your money on this license, and you know these kids will buy it because it's some Nickelodeon or some Disney property, and it really doesn't matter what you make at that point. Right, you can just kind of shovel something down there and put the license on it. And I think things got really dark, around that time with the kid stuff. And I think now we have a little bit of I think we still have that, but we also have this situation where there's all of these apps available where kids are playing games on their, iPads and their phones. And I've watched some kids play the games, and it's a little bit depressing to me because they have this like very, very short attention span. I will watch them play a game on their iPad, and they will play it for maybe a minute, and then they will close it and they will start up another game, and they will play that for maybe a minute, and they'll close it and they'll start up another game. And I don't think a company like Humongous Entertainment could survive in today's market, because the games that we made back then, Pajama Sam and Putt Putt and Freddy Fish, they were essentially long form narrative games, right? They required that we had the kids' undivided attention for long periods of time, and at the time they were happy to do that. I just I don't know that kids today are really in that kind of position.
So what do? You just wait for them to grow up and take some long form entertainment like Thimbleweed Park again, or do you think that if there was a game so compelling on iOS that was narrative-based and adventure-based that they'd get into it?
They might. I don't know. I mean, you can buy the Humongous Entertainment stuff for the iPad, but
okay.
I haven't done a lot of looking into, what happens when kids play those games, right? Do they get sucked into them, or do they close them after 30 seconds and move on to something else? I haven't really looked very closely at what their, play patterns are like.
Right. They're just going to go back to trying to get the servers working on Pokemon Go, I think. I saw you tweeted a couple times about Pokemon Go. What do you think of this phenomenon?
I think Pokemon Go is really interesting. I think any kind of a phenomenon like that I find very interesting. I don't find the game itself particularly interesting. There were lots of games like Pokemon Go before Pokemon Go, right? And so it's not like they did something. I mean, even the company that made Pokemon Go had made other games like Pokemon Go before that. So the game itself doesn't fascinate me. What fascinates me is more of the kind of the cultural impact that it's had. That just the amazing number of people that I see playing this game, and people wandering around staring at their phones now. They're not checking Twitter or Facebook now. Now they're playing Pokemon Go, and I think that's really interesting. I think it's good, right? I think it gets people kind of involved in games, and I think anytime you can do that, right? If you get 100 million people playing something like Pokemon Go, even if a small fraction of them go, hey, this was interesting. I wonder what else is out there, right? And then they might start exploring that kind of stuff and uncover different types of games.
Yeah, it's just so surreal to see adults walking around trying to memorize the names of the 151 original Pokemon. It's like, what universe is this for 2016? Like, that's the fascinating part to me is people that are so hooked on the game that aren't really even Pokemon fans, but it's like, well, there's a dumb-looking rat thing and a bird thing. I'll catch that. That's addictive enough for me.
I went to a wedding of a friend of mine on Sunday, and they had the service, and everybody's sitting there watching the service, and the service ends, kiss the bride, all that kind of stuff. And then immediately half the place whips out their phones to look for Pokemons.
They're just holding back the whole time.
There's this moment of respect during the ceremony, and then bam, phones come out. Let's see what Pokemons are here,
Oh, God, what terrible timing for a wedding. But have you ever seen a phenomenon like this? You've kept your eyes on the industry for so long.
No, not to this scale, no.
What do you think's second? Like, I think Jeff Gerstmann at Giant Bomb said that maybe Pac-Man is the closest phenomenon that we saw back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, the early stuff, when those arcade games first came out, they were brand new to everybody, and you did see a little bit of that. And I think you also saw a lot of weird phenomena, and it's not really computer stuff, but, you saw things like, Cabbage Patch Kids. I don't know if you remember that or know that, but that was the same kind of weird phenomenon. It's just everybody was talking about it. All the news people were talking about it. And so I think you occasionally get these weird phenomenons that pop up and just kind of work their way quickly through culture. I mean, whether Pokemon Go is still here in a month or 6 months, right? It could be totally gone by then, and only that very small hardcore group of people are still playing it.
Yeah. As a game designer, does your head immediately start spinning about, like, how can I make something that will not cash in on this, but kind of grab a little bit of that enthusiasm and do something more interesting with it?
I think the type of game that Pokemon Go isn't really the type of game that I enjoy making.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my friends do, and I certainly talk to them, and it gets their minds going, right? Because this is the kind of stuff that they're interested in. But I think we all pretty much agree that without the Pokemon license, this never would have happened, right? I don't think there's anything intrinsic about the game itself that grabbed all these people. I think it was the Pokemon license that kind of pushed it over the edge.
Yeah.
So sure. I think if you're looking at replicating Pokemon's success, I think the first thing you have to do is go find another license, because I don't think you're going to do it without some other large license.
Is Monkey Island license big enough?
I said large license.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Well, what about Scurvy Scallywags? You made a Match 3 game that was actually really great on iOS. Was that a positive experience for you?
Yeah, I really like mobile games a lot. I mean, if I could make kind of magically make no other type of game, I would make these games. What I don't like about them is I don't like all the in-app purchase stuff. I don't like how designers really have to kind of change their games and push this weird in-app purchase that kind of borders on gambling to me, or at least it triggers these gambling parts of our brain. Mm-hmm. And that part of it I don't really like. But I like designing those types of games. I like making games that you do go in and you play for 15 or 20 minutes and then you come out of, right? And then you play for another 15 minutes to come out of. I think those types of games are really fun.
Yeah. So
that aspect of it I like. I just don't like the economics of it, and I don't like the monetization models that mobile games have.
What do you think, like premium apps? You'd be interested in making more of those in the future?
I would, but they would never sell.
Why do you cut yourself short, Ron, immediately?
Well, they just don't. They don't. I mean, that's the honest truth. They don't sell, right? I mean, we can wish that they would sell, and I have these conversations with my game designer friends all the time. It's like we all wish this stuff would sell because we find it interesting, but we don't have any desire to do this weird in-app purchase stuff. So I just, I don't have a lot of faith in that. And, I think like Thimbleweed Park will probably do okay, on the phone, but I don't think it could have survived on the phone, right? The fact that it is primarily a PC game and it's going to be on some consoles, and then it kind of jumps over to the mobile platforms. I think it can enjoy some success and enjoy an interesting market on that platform. But had we made Thimbleweed Park just for the devices, I don't think it ever would have been successful.
Yeah. So what does your future hold? Are you really in love with this kind of global team that you've assembled here?
There are things about it I really like, and there are things I don't like about it. I mean, I love that I get to work with people all over the world. I love that I get to work with people from, that have very different experiences than me, and I really enjoy that. I don't like that I can't just walk over to someone's office. So anytime we do have discussions, it's like we have to, power up Skype, and then there's always this disconnect because you're on Skype, and that part. I am very much a face-to-face person, when it comes to that. So I miss that aspect of it.
So would you ever think about building up a small studio then on your own?
Yeah, I mean that would be fun to do. It's a lot of work. It's a burden, right? Because you now have a bunch of people that are kind of looking to you to do something. So it's a little bit of a burden to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have a very small, less than 10-person studio where we all kind of lived in the same area and did stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing what you do next. Keep on being experimental, man. It's exciting to watch. Great. What are the hot details on Thimbleweed Park? When is this thing coming out?
It'll be out at the beginning of 2017.
Okay, great.
And it'll be out on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and also it'll be out on the Xbox.
Cool, exciting stuff. Well, congratulations on wrapping up the game, man.
Thanks.
You're really getting there. All right, and thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next week, and we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.